Chapter 1821. 1821 God died, and the world cried out in grief. Boom, boom, boom. The surface of the Pacific Ocean suddenly shook, and the sea water began to churn irregularly. In the sky above the entire Spirit Sea Palace, some of the sea water was churning in all directions, completely violating the rules of nature. From 5 minutes ago, the entire ocean had undergone a terrifying change, attracting the attention of countless experts. In the coastal city, some powerful warriors hesitated for a moment before flying over. The disciples of the Divine Sea Palace outside were flying over quickly. Ahem, ahem, ahem. At the bottom of the sea of the Divine Sea Palace, Sea God stood up slowly from the bottom of the sea with a pale face. He held the trident in his right hand and stared at Ao Chitien with an extremely embarrassed expression. With every cough, he spat out large mouthfuls of blood. With one strike, Sea God was seriously injured. Father, Lord Sea God, my God, how could it be, how could it be, how could that ape-man be so strong? The divine sons and goddesses cried out in surprise, and the expressions of the disciples of the Divine Sea Palace changed drastically. As for the people at the training ground, they were completely dumbfounded. Their sea god, a true god, had been directly thrown into the bottom of the sea by one of the Dragon King's subordinate. In a one-hit confrontation, the sea god was completely at a disadvantage. You, a demon beast who hasn't become a god, can actually erupt with such terrifying power. Could it be a powerful bloodline creature? The sea god slowly stood up and held his trident. He stared at Ao Chitien with an extremely unsightly expression and roared in a low voice. Buzz! As soon as he finished speaking, a blue light flowed toward his body from the ground. Above him, an ocean whirlpool appeared. His pale face slowly turned red. This scene looked extremely cool and magical. Ao Chitien of the Demon Combat Division of the Dragon Palace, please enlighten me. Ao Chitien waved the ocean-pacifying divine needle in his hand. His figure moved and appeared in front of the sea god as if he had teleported. The enormous ocean-pacifying needle once again smashed down heavily. Ding! This is my divine kingdom. Here, my strength can be unleashed to infinity. You didn't ignite the divine fire. No matter how strong your bloodline is, I'm not afraid of you. Sea God's eyes were slightly red as he stared at the ocean-pacifying needle that was once again smashing down at him. He stretched out his arm, and the trident met it once again. This time, the blue light below and the whirlpool in the sky gathered directly on the tip of the trident. It was incomparably terrifying. A crisp collision sound rang out. The sea god's body collapsed a little towards the area below. His gaze was filled with killing intent as he stared at Ao Chitien. This attack was evenly matched. Roar! With such strength, you still dare to provoke our Dragon King? Ao Chitien and the other two Goyu stared at the sea god with contempt. Boom! Crackle! In an instant, a blood-red flame ignited on his body. In the middle of the blood-red flame, there were streaks of blood-red lightning-like stripes that made up for it. A violent aura that made one's scalp tingle was emitted from his body. The blood-red flame mixed with lightning spread toward the ocean-pacifying needle and attacked the sea god again. Unparalleled strength and violent attributes. This was the strongest dragon of the Dragon Palace, the Berserk Dragon, an existence that was at the peak of the universe. What kind of bloodline is this? The sea god's expression changed slightly when he saw the change in Ao Chitien's body. This violent aura made his heart skip a beat. Ocean, listen to my command. Kill. The sea god roared, and in an instant, the seawater within a radius of 6,000 to 7,000 kilometers came to a complete stop. Following that, waves of terrifying energy gathered toward his trident. Boom! The dazzling blue light gathered at one point and once again met Ao Chitien's attack. Bang! A terrifying wave of air rushed toward the surrounding areas. The entire Divine Kingdom was trembling, and some items in the Divine Kingdom flew into the distance. If it weren't for the existence of the Divine Palace here, the entire Pacific Ocean would have drowned all the surrounding coastal cities. Under Ao Chitien's attack, the sea god roared furiously. He held the trident with both hands, and his expression was extremely ferocious. Bang! 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 Ao Chitien withdrew the ocean-pacifying divine needle and then smashed it at the sea god at a terrifying speed. The sound of the trident and the ocean-pacifying divine needle colliding could be heard, and the sound of close combat could be heard continuously. In the divine kingdom, one by one, the buildings were collapsing violently. The disciples of the divine sea palace retreated backward in fear, their faces full of astonishment. How could this be? A small dragon palace on earth, a weak force, actually. The divine sons and goddesses saw the violent demon monkey fighting with their father, and saw cracks appearing in the divine kingdom. Their expressions changed drastically. In the divine kingdom, their father had an almost endless supply of power. Even if he was severely injured, he could recover quickly. Under such circumstances, he was still unable to suppress the other party. One could imagine how terrifying the other party's strength was. Just one of the Dragon King's subordinates is already so terrifying. Just how powerful is the Dragon King? At this moment, a voice filled with fear suddenly came from behind. The disciples of the divine sea palace immediately looked to the side. The young man had been standing beside the battle. He had a smile on his face, and he stood calmly with his hands behind his back. Ever since he came to the divine sea palace, the legendary Dragon King had always been calm and collected, regardless of whether it was the appearance of the sea god or the attack of the experts of the divine sea palace. He had always been so calm, as if he didn't take the sea god palace and the sea god seriously. This made them think of what the Dragon King and the violent ape man had said. A true god with a wisp of divine fire. Before the earth's revival and the arrival of the gods, the Dragon King had established the Dragon Palace, which shook the world and had a group of powerful underlings. Now that his underlings could fight against the sea god, how strong would he be? He would definitely be stronger than his underlings. At the thought of this, the divine sons and goddesses trembled, and their eyes were full of fear. Bang! At this moment, the sound of a violent collision rang out again, and the expressions of all the disciples of the divine sea palace changed drastically. Under the violent ape man's attack, the sea god was once again sent flying into the distance. The immense power caused the sea god's body to break the pillars of the divine sea palace one by one. A large mouthful of blood was spat out from the sea god's mouth, and his neat hair was completely disheveled. What a powerful bloodline power! What a powerful bloodline power! I admit defeat, I admit defeat. The sea god looked at his sunken body and roared with a face full of fear. Countless blue lights within the god nation healed his injuries. However, in just a minute of exchanging blows, the sea god had already realized that he was no match for this demonic beast. Chapter 1822. 1822. The world of 1822 shook. Sea god was a little terrified, and a faint fear rose in his heart. He looked at Ao Chitien, who was extremely violent and powerful. As he flew backward, he saw the Dragon King's calm expression. When he saw the calm face without any surprise, he suddenly felt a faint sense of despair. A subordinate of the Dragon King was able to completely suppress him. How powerful was the Dragon King? How could there be such a powerful indigenous people on Earth? He was a god who had descended, but he was an invincible existence. He would never have thought that he would encounter such a terrifying enemy on Earth. When he descended, the Dragon Palace on Earth was no different from an ant in their eyes. The voice of begging for mercy and admitting defeat rang out in the entire Divine Sea Palace. All the disciples in the Spirit Sea Palace widened their eyes and were filled with shock. Their god had actually admitted defeat. He admitted defeat to the Dragon King. It's too late. Wang Xian looked at the sea god indifferently. Why was he so high and mighty just now? He even thought that he was an invincible existence. If they weren't a match for the sea god, they would be suppressed in the ice domain until they died. This was especially so since the sea god had once said that he would kill all his family and friends. Wang Xian hated it the most when others threatened him. Those who threatened him would have to bear the consequences. Die. Roar. Ao Chitien let out a violent roar. The ocean-pacifying needle in his hand grew to 1,000 meters in size. The ocean-pacifying needle, which was covered in flames, darkness, and lightning, was filled with destructive power. You want to kill me? Dream on. I'm a god from the boundless starfield, a god from the boundless sea. Sea God roared with a savage face. A dazzling blue divine screen appeared in front of him. He waved his trident, and the divine screen attacked Aochitien. Explode! Aochitien saw the divine screen, and the strength of his arm increased. The 1,000-meter-large sea-pacifying divine needle shot forward. Crack! 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 The sound of breaking was heard, and pieces of indestructible materials fell from the sky above the divine kingdom. The divine screen slowly cracked, and continued to attack him. Blood prison mad dragon, die! The moment the sea-pacifying needle broke the divine screen, Aochitien released the sea-pacifying needle, and his figure instantly appeared in the sky above the sea god. The dark dragon, thunder dragon, and fire dragon appeared behind him, hovering behind Aochitien. He waved his arm and smashed it toward the sea god. The 3 dragons behind him entered Aochitien's body and burst out of his fist. Boom! The huge fist landed on the sea god's body. He stared at Aochitien with his blood-red eyes. His body began to crack slowly. Woo woo woo! A mournful cry came from the divine sea palace. At that moment, a drop of bright blood entered the divine realm from behind sea god. The mournful cry came to an abrupt end. Lord Sea God has fallen. No, 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 Father. How is this possible? Sea God has actually fallen. Oh my God. Shocking voices rang out in the divine sea palace, and the bodies of the million experts in the palace trembled violently. The eyes of the Son of God and the Goddess were red. Their faces were filled with grief and despair. Sea God, do you still want to escape in front of me? However, at this moment, a calm voice rang out again. What? When everyone heard this, they immediately turned to look at the Dragon King. Sea God, you destroyed my dragon palace and killed the disciples of my dragon palace. Don't even think about escaping today. Wang Xian said slowly again. He had clearly seen the collapse of the sea god's body and the escape of the drop of divine blood from the sea god. After becoming a god, the most powerful thing was not the qualitative change of one's strength, but the qualitative change of one's physical body. A drop of blood could be resurrected, but a severed head could still be resurrected. As for the regeneration of a severed arm, it was a piece of cake. The sea god had said at the end that it was wishful thinking to kill him. If Wang Xian didn't use his yin-yang and 5 elements dragon eyes to observe, it would have been difficult for him to notice that a drop of the sea god's divine blood was escaping. At the very least, Aochitien didn't notice it. Unfortunately, the sea god was destined to die today. As for you, the disciples of the divine sea palace, you have followed the wrong master. Wang Xian glanced at everyone around him and said indifferently, Buzz. After he finished speaking, the virtual image of the divine Shadow Dragon Kingdom slowly appeared behind him. The current divine Shadow Dragon Kingdom covered an area of 200 kilometers. The virtual Dragon Kingdom emitted an unparalleled and terrifying pressure. Even the position of the divine Shadow Dragon Kingdom seemed extremely tiny in front of it. Roar! 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 The roars of dragons came from the divine Shadow Dragon Kingdom. The terrifying pressure made all the disciples in the divine sea palace tremble. What? What is he doing? Did he discover me? At this moment, in the center of the divine sea palace, a drop of the god's blood of the sea god was hidden below. Sensing the appearance of the divine Shadow Dragon Kingdom behind Wang Xian, the god's blood of the sea god was fluctuating violently. When he begged for mercy and the other party did not agree, the sea god was already prepared to escape. As long as he escaped, even without the divine kingdom, he could slowly recover in a few decades. In fact, when Earth wandered to the boundless star field a few years later, he could return to the boundless sea and ask his master and senior brothers to help him recondense the divine seed. At that time, he would ask his master and the others to help him take revenge. He was already prepared for everything. But when he saw the shadow that contained a terrifying power, he had a bad premonition. What is the Dragon King doing? What is that terrifying shadow behind him? What does he mean? Did we follow the wrong master? Is he going to kill us? No, no. In the Spirit Sea Palace, all the disciples of the Sea God Palace looked terrified. Dragon King, don't kill us. No, we are also citizens of Earth. Some of the young and middle-aged men shouted in panic. Buzz. Faced with the begging voices around him, Wang Xian didn't show any signs of change. At this moment, a scene that shocked everyone appeared. The mysterious and terrifying palace that was 200 kilometers long actually started to devour the sea god palace. That's right, it was devouring. The mysterious and terrifying palace was devouring the sea god palace bit by bit. This was the sea god's divine kingdom, and it was being devoured bit by bit. What's going on? No, 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 he's devouring my divine kingdom. He's devouring my divine kingdom. The sea god felt this scene and was shocked. He roared in his heart. What the hell was this dragon king? How could he be so terrifying? Run, run now. He controlled the divine blood and tried to run away. Roar. However, at this moment, a terrifying suction force came from the mysterious palace. The sea god, who had only one drop of divine blood left, couldn't resist at all. No, 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 no. How could I die on this small planet? The sea god's true voice of despair, resounding throughout the palace. Chapter 1823. 1823. The 1823 world shook. This. When the sea god's voice suddenly filled the divine sea palace again, all the disciples' eyes were blank, and their faces were filled with shock. Whoosh. At this moment, everyone saw a drop of blood containing enormous energy fly towards the mysterious palace. No, Father. When the divine sons and goddesses saw the drop of divine blood, they naturally knew what was unexpected. This meant that their father had completely fallen. Woo woo woo. A sorrowful cry came from the divine kingdom. The sea god had completely fallen. A god, from igniting the divine fire to condensing the divine spark, to finally lifting the divine kingdom. The ascension of a god could cause a huge change in the world. It could cause the purple clouds to come from the east, and it could cause a certain attribute to jump in joy. However, when a god fell, it could also cause a huge change in the world. When a certain attribute of a god fell, a certain attribute within a radius of at least 10,000 kilometers would let out a sorrowful cry. This sound represented the sorrowful cry of the world. At the same time, this attribute within a radius of 10,000 kilometers would undergo a special change. Hualala. Strangely, on the surface of the Pacific Ocean, the waves that were surging earlier slowly calmed down. In the sky, heavy rain fell without any warning. Woo-hoo. Amidst the heavy rain, there were cries of grief. This was the grief of the water attribute. This represented the death of a water attribute god. Within a radius of 10,000 kilometers, the coastal cities by the sea were all covered by heavy rain. Suddenly, the heavy rain without any warning, without the slightest lightning or thunder, began to pour down. Everyone's faces were filled with astonishment. When the mournful cries were heard, countless people widened their eyes, their faces filled with shock. Torrential rain, the mournful cries of heaven and earth, and the fall of the water god. The current earth was not like the past, where they knew nothing about cultivation. After the teachings of the various divine kingdom experts, they understood a lot. Among them were records of the death of gods and the wailing of heaven and earth. This was the first time they had seen such a scene, but it was exactly the same as the records. In the skyscraping treasured palace located in the eastern sky, a few middle-aged men and women in the palace revealed shocked expressions when they heard the commotion from the Pacific Ocean. Their figures moved, and illusory shadows appeared above the skyscraping treasured palace. Poseidon is dead. Who did it? On the entire Earth, only the Templars people can make the sea god die without even a chance to escape. Could it be them? I don't think so. The Templars people have a good relationship with the endless sea. They won't make Poseidon die completely. Could it be those gods who almost died and blended into Earth to recover their strength? It's possible, but there's another possibility. After the Great War on Earth in the ancient times, those ancient gods who left their divine blood behind, the Earth's spiritual energy has only recovered for a dozen years, but someone actually killed a god. Let's pay attention. After all, Earth was once glorious. It should be a powerful god from the ancient times. He is gradually being revived because of this spiritual essence restoration. 10,000 meters above the Lingxiao treasured palace, a few figures were talking. They were looking at the divine sea palace with serious expressions. At the same time, at the equator, above the enormous throne of the fire god palace, in the west, on the divine mountain that was emitting divine flames in the sky, there was a huge figure floating at the top of the pyramid. All of them looked at the sky and the direction of the sea god palace. The fall of the sea god Poseidon shocked them. However, when they thought of this planet, they fell silent again. The earth had given birth to many starry forces, but in a battle, the incomparably huge earth had become a small ball, the spiritual energy had been completely exhausted, and even this starry sky had been called the abandoned domain of the god. Even though they were gods, they were still extremely surprised that this planet had given birth to humans and that the spiritual energy had been restored. The once dazzling planet was undergoing changes that even they couldn't predict. A god has fallen. There are 2 water gods on Earth, and in the direction of the Pacific Ocean, there is a sea god. The sea god has fallen. Heavens, not long ago, the entire ocean underwent a terrifying transformation. Now, the sea god has fallen. This is too terrifying. Who did this? Did other gods do this? A god has fallen, and even a god has fallen. Compared to the solemn shock of the gods, the others were even more shocked. The sea god was the only god on Earth who had ever made a move. Just as he descended, the trident lightly waved, and an attack covering an area of 20 kilometers directly destroyed the dragon palace at the bottom of the sea. It was said that the sea god hadn't even revealed a tenth of his strength. But now, the sea god had fallen. The gods were shocked, and the world was shaken. The entire earth was in an uproar, and countless people were discussing the matter of the sea god. Among them, there were also people who looked in the direction of the Pacific Ocean in a daze, and their faces were filled with contemplation. No one would have thought that the sea god's fall was because the Dragon King had returned. After 12 years, the Dragon King had become a memory to them. They had forgotten about it. This was a glorious era, an era where heaven's favorites were rampant. At the same time, at the position of the Divine Sea Palace, all the disciples of the Divine Sea Palace were feeling the changes in the world. When they saw the Divine Kingdom being slowly devoured, despair appeared on their faces. No, no, no. Don't kill us. Don't devour us. Terrified pleas for mercy rang out. Wang Xian didn't show any signs of change. The Dragon Palace has devoured the water elemental Divine Kingdom. They are still short of the 7 divine kingdoms of metal, wood, wind, thunder, darkness, light, and darkness. They will be able to level up. The divine kingdom of the dragon god had already been devoured by the Dragon Palace. The Sea God Palace was the second one. The divine kingdom was converted into materials for the Dragon Palace to level up. Meanwhile, the experts of the Sea God Palace would become resources for the members of the Dragon Palace to level up. The law of the universe, the strong prey on the weak. Wang Xian stood there without any change in his expression. Both parties were enemies. It was either one of them or the other. The Divine Sea Palace was slowly being devoured. Some of the corpses of the marine race turned into dragon energy and entered his body. It was a pity that the sea god did not belong to the marine race. Otherwise, devouring the energy of a god would increase his dragon energy by a lot. However, at this moment, a large amount of dragon blood was flowing out of the mouths of the 9 dragon pillars in the dragon transformation pool. The enormous amount of dragon blood stunned Prime Minister Gui. Such a large amount of dragon blood could help a leader of the Dragon Palace advance to the godly state. Ao Xingmu, enter the dragon transformation pool and advance to the godly state. Prime Minister Gui hesitated for a moment and called Ao Xingmu over. The potential of the Starwood dragon was greater than that of the other dragon species. Once they became gods, their fire attributes would recover and they would have 2 attributes. They would be the peak dragon species of the Dragon Palace. Chapter 1824. 1824 1824 Ancient Gods, Ancient Mountains, and Ancient Lands. Buzz. At the bottom of the Pacific Ocean, the Sea God Palace that once occupied an area of 1,000 kilometers was slowly being devoured. Standing at the bottom of the ocean, it was awe-inspiring. The holy land of water attribute cultivators was gradually being wiped out. When the last scream came to an abrupt end, the entire space shook as if it had regained its clarity. There were no traces of water flowing down from the entire sea. Wang Xian was floating in the middle of the sea god palace. Ao Jian, Ao Chitian, and the rest had flown to his left and right. Devil 15 and Devil 16, who were standing at the side, watched this scene in shock. Their eyes were wide open and filled with disbelief. Just now, they witnessed the destruction of a divine kingdom and the fall of a god. Their Dragon King didn't make a move other than summoning the mysterious and terrifying palace at the last moment. Even without the Dragon King, the experts of the Dragon Palace could kill the sea god. The Dragon King was so powerful that they could never imagine it. Our invincible Dragon King is back. Mo 15 and Mo 16 looked at each other with excitement. Disciples of the Dragon Gate pay their respects to the Dragon King. The two of them did not hesitate at all. They knelt in the middle of the ocean and shouted loudly, "Dragon Gate!" Wang Xian looked at them and smiled faintly. Back on Earth, after the rise of the Dragon Palace, the Dragon Gate gradually declined. He did not bother about the disciples of the Dragon Gate anymore. Now that he saw his loyal subordinates from more than 10 years ago kneeling in front of him, he felt a little emotional. "Get up." Wang Xian waved his hands gently. The powerful force made them stand up immediately. "We're going to Jiang City. Let's talk while we walk," he said to the two Dragon Gate disciples. "It's the Dragon King." The two of them nodded respectfully. Ao Jian waved his arms and two sharp swords appeared under their feet. The five of them flew directly to the surface of the sea. Splash! When they flew out of the water, the sound of a rainstorm was heard. The entire world seemed to be completely covered by the rainstorm. Ordinary people could not even see a place 5 or 6 meters away. Not good, they are out. Fortunately, my heaven and earth concealment technique is also extremely powerful in this starry sky. Even a godly state expert would find it difficult to find me. Was the person who destroyed the sea god just now the young man in the middle? It didn't seem to be someone from the other 4 factions. Fuck, he destroyed everyone in the entire Divine Sea Palace. Not a single one was spared. This person is a ruthless person. Could he be like me? An almighty who only resurrected after a drop of divine blood was restored to his spiritual energy? That's impossible. I think I'm very awesome, but I've only just reached the threshold of a demigod in a short span of more than 10 years. At this moment, in a hidden corner 20 kilometers away from Wang Xian and the rest, a young man was hiding in the rain. He looked at Wang Xian and the rest, mumbling non-stop. As the saying goes, a man of great skill is bold. When something happened at the Divine Sea Palace, he rushed over immediately. He happened to see the scene of Wang Xian and the rest coming out. Towards this young man who was standing in the middle and was able to destroy the sea god, his face was filled with astonishment. "Looks like I have to be more careful in the future. I'd better be a good second generation. TSK. The young man smiled. His figure flashed as he prepared to flee into the distance. However, all of a sudden, the young man sensed that the young man was looking in his direction. "Oh no, I've been discovered. How is this possible? My heaven and earth concealment technique is the best concealment technique in this starry sky. Even the eternal God Lord might not be able to discover it. Damn it." The young man's brows suddenly jumped. Looking at that calm gaze, he nearly wet his pants in fear. He turned around and fled in terror. Pang! However, just as he turned around, he bumped into an indestructible invisible wall. This caused the young man's expression to change drastically. Sensing the gaze from the back, his expression changed drastically. Big brother, this little brother is just passing by. This little brother is just passing by. I don't have any other intentions. I beg Big Brother to let this little brother off. In the future, when I see Big Brother, this little brother will definitely take a detour. Please spare my life, Big Brother. Plop. The young man's expression changed. With a plop, he knelt down in the void and shouted with a sad face. Fuck, the master in front of him had killed the sea god. Not a single disciple of the Divine Sea Palace was left. He was spying here. Maybe this ruthless man wanted to kill him. He had been silent on Earth for more than 100,000 years. It was not easy for him to revive after encountering the recovery of the spiritual essence. He did not want to die. If he died again, it would be very difficult for him to be revived. He shouted to the front with an aggrieved look on his face. He looked like a coward. 20 kilometers away, Wang Xian was sizing up this young man. He did not look old, but he had the strength that was close to that of a demigod. Wan Shou was called a demigod on Earth and would be collectively called a demigod in the future. Most importantly, Wang Xian discovered that this young man's body contained some kind of divinity. It was the kind of energy that only a god could possess. Looking at Wang Xian's scrutinizing gaze, the young man's heart trembled. This guy wasn't trying to kill him, right? Brother, please spare my life. The young man begged loudly again. Let's go. From afar, Wang Xian saw the young man begging for mercy. He smiled faintly and said to Ao Jian and Ao Chitian. Turning around, the 5 of them flew rapidly toward the east. Phew, which god is that young man? He seems to possess terrifying ocular skills and the strength in his body is also somewhat terrifying. Fuck, too many gods died in that huge battle more than 100,000 years ago. I wonder which guy shed the blood of God. When the young man saw Wang Xian and the rest leaving, he wiped the raindrops on his forehead. These raindrops were mixed with his cold sweat. Let's go. Let's go. He moved his body and flew rapidly towards a distant location. After flying for about 100 kilometers, an incomparably huge yacht was parked in the middle of the sea. The yacht was no longer the same as it was on Earth. It was filled with mystical patterns. On the side of the yacht, there were 4 big words, Shenfeng Corporation. Young master, you're finally back. We were worried sick. The young man flew over, and a dozen middle-aged men dressed neatly on the yacht shouted at the young man anxiously. Okay, what could possibly happen to me? The young man slightly puffed out his chest and waved at them proudly. His pride and arrogance were reflected in his body. It was as if he was not the one who was kneeling there and begging for mercy. If anyone else on Earth saw this ship, they would definitely recognize it at a glance. The Shenfeng Group was one of the 3 major pharmaceutical industries in the East. And that young man was the famous eldest young master of the Shenfeng Group, the current second-generation rich in the East. Their pharmaceutical business had already reached the Ling Xiao Palace. Chapter 1825. 1825 1825 Ancient Gods, Ancient Mountains, and Ancient Underground. The Earth has changed so much in the past 10 years. In the sky, Wang Xian and the rest flew toward Dongfang Jiang City. They looked down at the unfamiliar city and muttered to themselves. Dragon King, during these 10 years, the Earth has been undergoing drastic changes every day, especially after the gods from beyond the heavens descended. On Earth, some of the mountain peaks have undergone drastic changes. Divine light has burst forth. There are wild beasts that can communicate with spirits, divine trees that grow, and Lingji fruits that have broken out of the ground. In the past few years, Earth has been expanding crazily. Powerful ancient lands have appeared on Earth. There are powerful demonic beasts and ferocious beasts in the ancient lands. There are also incomparably powerful formations and countless treasures. The 5 major factions have passed down cultivation methods. They have recruited disciples with great talent and entered the ancient lands of the divine mountains to search for treasures. Nowadays, there is an endless competition on Earth. Each and every one of them has great strength. Some of the forces even seem to have some reservations about the 5 major forces. However, those high and mighty gods rarely interfere in the matters on Earth. Nowadays, the heavens' favorites are rampant and the divine sons and daughters are suppressing a domain. At the side, Mo 15 and Mo 16 reported to Wang Xian with a slight sigh. The current Earth was a dazzling Earth. There were all sorts of mysterious places and all sorts of heaven's favorites competing with each other, coupled with the fact that the current Earth was wandering and flying towards the starfield that they didn't know about. The future was filled with uncertainty and hope for everyone. The great era had arrived. How are the Dragon Gate disciples now? Wang Xian asked the 2 Draconids. Dragon King, after the Dragon Palace went into seclusion, the disciples of the Dragon Gate were fine. They settled down in Jiang City. Now, There are brothers who are getting married and having children. A few years ago, an ancient land appeared in Jiang City. Although it is not considered the top ancient land on Earth, it is still considered pretty good. It was occupied by the leader and the rest. Devil 15 and Devil 16 said, "It's good to get married and have children." Wang Xian nodded with a smile and looked at the vast land. In the sky, there were experts flying in the sky from time to time. Although the spiritual energy had recovered and the earth had undergone a huge change, there were still many things that had not changed. For example, tall buildings and cars that were driving on the ground. All of them were powerful corporations. The difference was that the high-rise buildings were sturdier, the cars were more cool, and the speed and safety were more powerful. The ordinary corporations of the past were now replaced by pill manufacturing companies and weapons manufacturing companies. Entertainment venues, bars, KTVs, and the like still existed. Unfamiliar yet familiar, an incomparably huge palace stood in the sky, and one could vaguely see some people entering and leaving. From Devil 15 and Devil 16, they learned that the Lingxiao treasured palace was the largest faction in the east. The gods were in charge, and the heavens' favorites and divine sons and goddesses were roaming freely. That is, Wang Xian, who was flying in the sky, looked at a mountain peak below. His eyes were flashing with a mystical luster. Dragon King, that is Mount Heng. The spiritual energy has recovered, and Mount Heng has undergone a huge change. Spiritual herbs and spiritual fruits have emerged from the ground and are now occupied by a divine sun. The Draconid at the side replied. Wang Xian opened his dragon eyes of yin-yang and 5 elements and swept his gaze across the mountain peak that was emitting divine light. Mount Heng of South Yu was also a famous mountain peak in this land. However, Mount Heng was now a few thousand meters tall. The spirit trees of transcendence level covered the entire mountain peak. The chirping of birds and beasts could be compared to some of the treasured lands of families in the transcendence continent. The god's blood. This mountain has been bathed in the god's blood. The corpses of the gods have rotted here and improved the entire Mount Heng. Wang Xian's dragon eyes of yin and yang and the 5 elements revealed a surprised expression. I know now. Why do I feel that there's something strange in the body of that young man on the surface of the sea? Looking at the mystical Mount Heng, he stopped. His eyes were flashing with astonishment. No wonder that young man possesses divinity. That young man is a god himself, a fallen god. Wang Xian's eyes were filled with radiance. Only a fallen god who was resurrected and recultivated with divine blood would have such energy in his body. If I knew this would happen, I would have captured that fellow and searched his memory with my soul. Wang Xian shook his head slightly. His body moved and he continued to fly forward. He deliberately slowed down to tour the earth after the great change. In less than an hour, another mysterious place appeared in his sight. This was a mysterious place with an area of several thousand kilometers. Wang Xian, who used to be extremely familiar with Earth, could confirm that there was no such place in the past. Dragon King, after the recovery of the spiritual energy, some of the ground suddenly appeared. This is one of them. It is called an ancient land. There are many treasures in the ancient land. It is a holy land for cultivation. However, it is also filled with danger. This is one of the 20 ancient lands of the East. Countless people enter and explore it every day. The Draconid saw Wang Xian's puzzled gaze and explained to him. Ancient land? Wang Xian looked at the area of a few thousand kilometers below him. Based on the energy in this area, he was almost certain that this was the kingdom of God. The real kingdom of God. However, this kingdom of God had been completely destroyed. Only a few things remained. It formed the ancient land on earth. Even if it was some ordinary things that were left behind in the kingdom of God, they were still rare treasures in front of ordinary cultivators. There might even be treasures that were extremely precious to the gods. It seems that the rapid rise of some people on earth has a lot to do with the kingdom of God. Wang Xian thought to himself. The divine mountain of the kingdom of God was definitely a treasure in the transcendence continent. It was an existence that even demigods yearned for. Now that there were so many ruins of the kingdom of God on earth, it was a great opportunity for cultivators. Pagoda, pagoda, pagoda. At this moment, The sound of huge beasts galloping could be heard from the front. Wang Xian looked over and saw 5 to 6 demon beasts of the insightful void tier pulling an extremely luxurious carriage as they galloped in the sky. In the surrounding area, there were also many young men riding on galloping cloud horses as they flew in the sky. The insightful void tier demon beast pulling the carriage had a majestic aura. That should be a heaven's favorite traveling. A heaven's favorite traveling and a powerful demon beast pulling the carriage. All the heaven's favorites rose up in the ancient land. In fact, the heaven's favorites born on earth are comparable to the heaven's favorites who descended in the Lingxiao treasured palace. Listening to the explanation of the two draconids and looking at the majestic heaven's favorite carriage in front of him, Wang Xian revealed a smile. How interesting. The current earth wouldn't be so boring. Wang Xian smiled. The divine mountains that were bathed in the blood of the gods, the ruins of the ancient lands of the divine kingdom, and the resurrected god. The ancient gods, ancient mountains, and ancient lands. Each and every mysterious place filled Wang Xian with curiosity. The heavens' favorites were rampant, and the sons and daughters of the gods were born. He, the Dragon King, could have a good time in this dazzling world. Chapter 1826. 1826 Ancient Land of Jade Lake. Da. As a heaven's favorite pulled by a powerful demonic beast entered the ancient land below, another heaven's favorite pulled by a powerful demonic beast flew towards the location below in less than a minute. Hey! Why are there two heaven's favorites here all of a sudden? Could it be that a treasure has appeared in the ancient land? The two draconids who were standing beside Wang Xian were astonished when they saw another heaven's favorite flying over. Are the other ancient lands as big as this? Wang Xian looked at the divine kingdom below and asked the two draconids. Some are bigger than this, and some are smaller than this. The two draconids said, this ancient land is called the Jade Lake. It's named after the place where the Queen Mother of the West lives in the legend. The specific reason for naming the Jade Lake is that the weapons that someone obtained from this place are all female weapons. Furthermore, there's a goddess statue at the entrance. The ancient land of the Jade Lake? Wang Xian raised his eyebrows as he scanned the area below with his yin-yang and 5 elemental dragon eyes. There was a layer of energy in the divine kingdom that he could not see through. However, based on his guesses, this divine kingdom was definitely not something that ordinary gods could build. It covered an area of about 5,000 kilometers. It was considered huge in the divine kingdom. On Earth, it was even bigger. Let's go down and take a look. Wang Xian hesitated for a moment. Then, he moved his body and flew straight down. Ao Jian, Ao Chitian, and the rest followed closely behind. Wang Xian was also curious about the ancient land that suddenly appeared on Earth. Currently, the upgrade of the Dragon Palace required the engulfing of 9 attributes of the Divine Kingdom. Currently, there were still 7 attributes missing. The Divine Kingdom below was of the wood attribute. If the conditions of the upgrade of the Dragon Palace were met, it could be completely absorbed. As a Divine Kingdom, even if it was the ruins of the Divine Kingdom, it still possessed a strong power. If one wanted to enter, one had to enter from the entrance. There were 2 entrances to the Jade Lake ancient land. Wang Xian flew towards the west entrance. According to my report, not long ago, there was a strong spiritual energy fluctuation in the ancient land of Jade Lake. It was suspected that a treasure had been unearthed. 2 Heaven's Pride prodigies, Yarrow Girl and Hua Yuhen, entered the ancient land of Jade Lake. Before the 2 Heaven's Pride prodigies, the 5th son of deity on the god sealing list of the Lingxiao Treasure Hall and the group of experts in the Lingxiao Treasure Hall had also entered ahead of time. I wonder if there will be a fight. Wow, did you guys see that? The Jade Lady Heaven's favorite just now. Oh my god, she is so beautiful. I took a perfect picture just now. Haha, come, my friends, let's give them a wave of gift. When Wang Xian had just landed in the ancient land of the Jade Lake, a lively sound was heard. Wang Xian's gaze swept across and realized that there were reporters from the television station broadcasting. There was also a live streamer. It looked extremely lively. This is really interesting. Legends and technology overlapped. Wang Xian revealed a look of interest. He looked at the entrance. It was a 2-kilometer wide entrance. The spine of the entrance was dilapidated and the words on it had disappeared. Within a few kilometers of the entrance, there was a 20-meter-long statue of a goddess. The face of the goddess was blurred and the arms of the statue were all broken. The position inside looked a little messy. A huge pillar was placed in the middle, and huge rocks were falling inside. Looking from the outside, there weren't many people inside. Wang Xian walked straight into the place. "Brothers, there are people going in again. I wonder if they can come out alive." Although the ancient land of Jade Lake was built by a goddess, it is extremely dangerous inside the ancient land, especially the flower demons, tree demons, and vine demon. When the ancient land of Jade Lake appeared, all the experts from the Lingxiao treasured palace had entered. However, they suffered heavy losses. The voice of the streamer came from behind. Wang Xian turned a deaf ear and walked inside. The owner of this divine kingdom was definitely not a match for Wang Xian at his peak. However, he had nothing to be afraid of since he was a fallen god. After entering the dilapidated divine kingdom, a desolate aura rushed over. Wang Xian scanned his surroundings and looked ahead with his dragon eyes of yin-yang and 5 elements. The area within a radius of 5,000 kilometers was extremely huge. It was obviously impossible to walk into the interior of the divine kingdom. As his dragon eyes scanned the surroundings, a few scenes that were hundreds of kilometers ahead appeared in his vision. There were a few scenes that were missing and were blocked by a powerful energy. "Let's go." Wang Xian's body trembled and he wanted to teleport into the area. Buzz. Just as he was about to appear in a certain spot in his vision, he suddenly felt a powerful binding force. "Hey!" Wang Xian's body stiffened slightly and a look of astonishment appeared on his face. "There's actually a force here that can restrict me from teleporting." A look of astonishment appeared on his face. He could only fly over quickly. Squeak squeak. As he flew at full speed, Wang Xian sensed some sharp sounds around him. As he swept his gaze across the surroundings, he discovered many flower demons. These huge, gorgeous flowers were able to unleash all kinds of powerful attacks. However, these flower demons were completely ignored in front of Wang Xian. The closer he got, the more various flowers, plants, and trees there were. Waves of powerful wood elemental energy were transmitted over. Wang Xian scanned his surroundings. 80% of the palaces had collapsed. Some of them were completely covered by mysterious vines. If he didn't pay attention, flower demons, tree demons, and vine demons could appear in his surroundings at any time. This should be a vine demon. It even knows how to set traps. Wang Xian looked at a spot in front of him. There was a large stretch of vines on both sides and a passageway in the middle. The vines were motionless. It was impossible to tell that it was a vine demon. It's at the void interpretation level. As expected, this ancient land of Jade Lake is not a place that ordinary people can enter, Wang Xian thought to himself as he walked straight ahead. When they reached the middle of the vines, Ao Jian gave it a cold glance. Following that, they walked straight in. So strong. The humans outside are getting stronger. When Wang Xian and the rest left, the vine demon quickly fled into the distance. It flew straight ahead without any obstruction. The deeper they went, the stronger the flower demon and tree demon were. When they flew for more than 2,000 kilometers, the various plant-type demonic beasts in the vicinity had already reached the demigod realm. They continued flying forward and soon arrived at the center. There are traces of battle, and it should have happened in the past few years. When he arrived at the center, a tree with a radius of 20 kilometers appeared in his line of sight. The tree was only 100 meters tall, and there was a huge group of wooden houses on it. At this moment, 80% of the wooden houses had been destroyed. This destruction should have happened in the past few years. Those who managed to get here should be the gods. Even if there are treasures here, they might have been taken away. Wang Xian was floating there. A terrifying energy was emitted from his body as he sized up his surroundings. Chapter 1827. 1827. In 1827, a blade of grass cut through the sun, moon, and stars. At the center of the ancient land of Jade Lake, Wang Xian was floating in the sky as he scanned his surroundings. Some of the demonic vines below did not dare to act rashly under his imposing manner. To be able to become a god, each and every one of them was a proud son of heaven and earth. They had descended to earth for the treasures here. With the appearance of the ruins of the kingdom of God, they would definitely come here to search and take away all the precious treasures. Even if there were some things left behind, they wouldn't be interested in them. Perhaps, they were left behind for the sake of some disciples. The chances of me being able to get away from the gods are rather slim. Wang Xian frowned slightly. However, he wasn't too disappointed. He came here just to take a look. In the divine kingdom now, apart from the various plant-type demonic beasts, there were also some spiritual herbs and the like. At the moment, he wasn't interested in them at all. There were simply too many spiritual herbs and spiritual trees in the Dragon Palace. Even if they were at the demigod level, there were at least a few thousand of them. So many treasures. At this moment, the exclamations of the two draconids could be heard from the side. They looked at the spiritual herbs and spiritual fruits below with burning eyes. Wang Xian was stunned for a moment before he smiled. These spiritual herbs and spiritual fruits were nothing to him. However, to the draconids who were only at the transcendent stage, they were indeed rare treasures. He waved his arm and the spiritual herbs and spiritual fruits below all flew towards him. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. However, at this moment, the flower demons, vine demons, and tree demons that grew on the special giant tree with a radius of 20 kilometers below attacked Wang Xian. Hey! They dare to attack. Wang Xian was slightly surprised. He waved his arm and the powerful destructive force caused them to wither. Spiritual herbs and spiritual fruits continued to fly toward him. Do you guys know this special tree below? Wang Xian threw the spiritual herbs and spiritual fruits directly to the two draconids. His gaze landed on the tree with a diameter of 20 kilometers below. This tree was very strange. When he looked at it, it was obvious that it was some kind of powerful tree that was cut off from 100 meters away. Then, it was placed in the kingdom of God as the trunk of a treehouse. This didn't seem too strange. However, in the instant just now, Wang Xian suddenly sensed a special fluctuation coming from this tree. This fluctuation was a very weak fluctuation when these flower demons and tree demons were attacking. This special fluctuation was very weak. Wang Xian was sure that even the god who ignited the 9 wisps of divine fire couldn't sense it. If he didn't have the ancestral tree, he wouldn't have been able to sense it either. I don't recognize it. The two draconids shook their heads. Wang Xian landed on the tree and touched it with his hand. He didn't feel any life force on the tree. In other words, the tree was dead. The system couldn't find out the name of the tree either. This meant that it wasn't some divine tree. But that fluctuation just now did indeed come from this tree. Could there be some treasure? Wang Xian's interest was piqued. The gods that descended on earth were very strong, but the owner of this divine kingdom was obviously not weak either. If she really wanted to spend a lot of effort to hide something, it would be difficult for other gods to discover it. Buzz. He closed his eyes and communicated with the ancestral tree. His consciousness slowly reached into the tree below. In an instant, a tree with a radius of 20 kilometers appeared clearly in front of him. Even the roots below were clearly visible. This is. All of a sudden, Wang Xian noticed that there was a root extending further away from the tree. He looked at the strange root and was pleasantly surprised. Maybe I can really touch the treasure. Wang Xian opened his eyes and walked towards the west along the route. What a long route. I have walked at least 1,000 kilometers. This god actually went through so much trouble. It's definitely not an ordinary treasure. Wang Xian was pleasantly surprised. Everyone, be careful. Don't get entangled by these tree demons. Yarrow girl, control your flower demons to defend against the dozens of tree demons at the 8th level of the see-through realm. No, my flower demons can't defend against them at all. How can there be such a powerful tree demon here? Let me help you. There are so many powerful tree demons guarding this place. The treasures inside are definitely not simple. Son of deity, let's make a deal first. We will split the treasures inside equally. Just when Wang Xian was about to reach the end of the route, The sound of a fight suddenly came from the front. Wang Xian looked over and saw more than 300 people fighting with a group of tree demons. The tree demons were more than 10 meters tall. They had strange eyes and ferocious mouths on their main trunks. They waved their branches and emitted terrifying attacks. The one fighting with them was a middle-aged man with the strongest strength, a rank 1 demigod expert. At this moment, he was fighting with a rank 1 demigod tree demon, and the powerful battle affected an area of more than 30 kilometers. This was also because of the kingdom of God. If it was outside, the battle of a demigod expert could cover an area of several hundred kilometers. Other than one demigod, the strongest person was a youth dressed in a yellow robe. The word God was written on the chest of the yellow robe. The other stronger person was a woman with a good figure who looked extremely arrogant. Next was a youth dressed in bright clothes. These three were extraordinary among the 300 people. They had towering horns on their heads and were very eye-catching and dazzling. Although they were only at the 8th level of the see-through realm, they all possessed powerful abilities. The end of this route is actually here. Wang Xian looked at the spot in front of them where the battle was taking place. There was a crack there. The crack was more than 10 meters long and the surrounding area was densely packed with tree demons. Looks like the treasure is there. My luck is pretty good. Wang Xian revealed a smile. He moved his body and flew straight into the crack. Oh no, someone is trying to catch the cicada with a mantis. Damn it, he actually rushed in while we were holding him back. I want to see who dares to snatch food from the tiger's mouth in the hands of the 9 heavens. Chempate. When Wang Xian flew in, an angry voice came from behind. Before Wang Xian could think further, a vast force came from inside. 2 blades of grass. 2 ordinary blades of grass. The blades of grass were the size of a palm and emitted an incomparably green glow. The moment he entered, the 2 blades of grass unleashed an incomparably vast attack. A god that can rival a wisp of divine fire. Wang Xian's pupils constricted slightly. His arm immediately transformed into a dragon claw and struck out. Boom! The 2 blades of grass landed on the dragon claw and made a silent collision, causing Wang Xian's arm to go slightly numb. What kind of creature is this? Wang Xian's expression changed slightly as his gaze locked onto the 2 blades of grass. Seeing that Wang Xian was not injured at all, the blades of grass trembled and flew backward. You still want to escape? Wang Xian's body froze as the aura of the ancestral tree was emitted from his body. The 2 grasses trembled. Their movements were slightly stiff and they were trembling. Star grass, godly state, has recognized its master. A single grass could destroy the sun, moon, and stars. The information of the 2 grasses instantly appeared in Wang Xian's mind. Chapter 1828. 1828 Father 1828. Daughter. Go. A single blade of grass can destroy the sun, moon, and stars. When Wang Xian saw the message of the 2 blades of grass, he was astonished. Stargrass, a single blade of grass could destroy the sun, moon, and stars. How domineering and arrogant was this? This is a divine weapon. No, it seems to be even more powerful than a divine weapon. Wang Xian's eyes were burning with excitement. The 2 blades of grass could ignite a wisp of divine fire. This attack was too terrifying. Buzz. Wang Xian raised his dragon claw and grabbed at the 2 stalks of stargrass. Whoosh. Whoosh. However, the 2 stalks of grass seemed to have mustered up a great amount of courage and quickly ran into the distance. Heh! Wang Xian was slightly puzzled. Then, he recalled the information behind the 2 stalks of stargrass and realized that they had recognized him as their master. Could it be that there are creatures inside? Or perhaps there are treasures? He looked into the depths of the crack. The position inside was emitting a terrifying spiritual energy. Apart from the spiritual energy, there was also a refreshing fragrance. The fragrance was pleasant and refreshing. He could vaguely see some colorful flowers inside. Without any hesitation, he flew straight into the crack. Splash, splash. The crack was very deep and was at least 5,000 to 6,000 meters deep. As he got closer, Wang Xian could hear the sound of dripping water. The entire space was not very big. It was only 200 to 300 square meters. The surrounding beautiful flowers were emitting a refreshing fragrance. In the middle of the crack, there was a small pond. A root was poking out from the center of the ancient land of Jade Lake. At this moment, drops of spiritual liquid were dripping from the end of the root in the middle of the pond. In the middle of the pond, there was such a lotus flower. At this moment, the two star grass were suspended in the air above the lotus flower. They were emitting a bright and sharp light as they stared at Wang Xian. There are more treasures. When Wang Xian saw the huge lotus flower, an excited look appeared on his face. He moved his body and flew directly towards the lotus flower. Whoosh! Whoosh! When the two-star grass saw Wang Xian flying over, a light flashed and an incomparably sharp light slashed towards him. You still dare to attack? When he saw the two-star grasses attacking again, a hint of surprise appeared on Wang Xian's face. Trap! He moved his arm and a grayish cage directly trapped the two-star grasses. No matter how they attacked, they were unable to break the cage. These two-star grasses seemed to be protecting something. Was it that lotus flower? Wang Xian thought to himself. With a wave of his arm, he grabbed the cage and flew to the sky above the lotus flower. However, when Wang Xian saw the situation inside the 2-meter-long lotus flower, his face stiffened slightly. Two babies with pink faces, were lying in the middle of the lotus flower. The two babies looked to be about 6 to 7 months old. They were hugging a withered yellow branch and looked like they were sleeping soundly. The spiritual liquid in the pool was slowly injected into their bodies. Their bodies contained an incomparably majestic power. Divine blood. 2 girls. Wang Xian sized up the 2 baby girls and his expression changed slightly. He thought that there would be treasures inside, but he didn't expect it to be 2 baby girls. The dragon eyes of the yin-yang and 5 elements sized up the 2 baby girls. Wang Xian's expression changed slightly. There's no life force. These are dead babies. His expression changed. He approached the huge lotus and placed his palm on one of the babies. Indeed, there was no life force. No matter how much spiritual energy was injected into the baby, it would not be revived. His gaze landed on the yellow branch that the 2 babies were hugging. God-striking branch. It had withered and died. This branch is even stronger than the star grass. Is it on the same level as the indestructible wood? When he saw the information on this branch, Wang Xian's eyes lit up with joy. He immediately took it over. Without any resistance, he snatched it away from the 2 babies. Whoosh! 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 Bang! 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 When he picked up the God-striking branch, the star grass that was trapped in the 5 elements cage by the side began to collide violently. It was as if they were protecting something. The owners of these 2 star grass should be these 2 baby girls. Wang Xian thought to himself as he looked at the God-striking branches in his hand. Buzz! A strong life force was emitted from the spot on his chest. A green light enveloped the God-striking branches. Treasure! Wang Xian was delighted when he saw the ancestral tree's reaction. Plants that could make the ancestral tree react had a heaven-defying function. The God-striking tree was slowly sucked into his chest. At the same time, he sensed that he was in the Dragon Palace's Dragon King Hall. The ancestral tree that had grown to a few hundred meters in size had a branch growing out from the branch below. The branch was filled with barbs and was extremely green like a whip. This branch was located below the branches of the endless wood and the evergreen tree. It seemed like its level was not as high as the endless wood. However, when this god-slaying branch appeared in the ancestral tree, the entire ancestral tree gave off a sharp feeling. At the same time, Ao Xingmu, who was preparing to ignite the divine fire, condense the divine spark, and lift the divine kingdom in the dragon transformation pool, suddenly trembled. His body began to emit a bright green light. The roots under his body were swept by a bright and sharp green light. As the green glow swept past, sharp barbs appeared on the roots under his body. Slowly, the barbs retracted as though they had not appeared. Ao Xingmu's entire body became even sharper. Buzz! In the ancient land of Jade Lake, Wang Xian moved his arm slightly and a whip appeared in his hand. The whip looked very ordinary, like a branch. With a move of his arm, A green glow flashed on the whip and barbs appeared. Wang Xian revealed a hint of surprise on his face. This god-striking branch was completely different from the eternal tree's thunderwood. This could be used in a battle. The power on it was a little strange. Bang, bang, bang. At this moment, an even stronger sound of collision was heard from the five elements cage. Wang Xian swept his gaze over and realized that the two-star grass seemed to be very anxious. He looked at the two baby girls in the lotus flower and frowned again. The two baby girls' rosy bodies had turned colorless. Even their bodies seemed to have withered. What's going on? Are they going to die? Wang Xian was slightly surprised. He looked at the two baby girls and revealed a hesitant expression. Wang Xian was almost certain that these two baby girls were gods who had fallen in the ancient times. After the recovery of the spiritual energy, they were resurrecting. However, it was obvious that they were in trouble when they were resurrected. That was why they were about to die. When he took away the god-striking branches, the speed of death accelerated. I should save them. At the same time, I can learn some things about the starry sky and the ancient earth. Wang Xian thought to himself as he placed his hands on the two baby girls. Buzz. An endless stream of life force flowed towards the two baby girls from the position of his heart. Since the two baby girls needed to rely on the divine branches to resurrect themselves, then the ancestral tree would definitely be able to save them. When the ancestral tree's power entered their bodies, the two baby girls were once again ruddy, and a stream of life force overflowed from their bodies. Resurrected. Chapter 1829. 1829 Dad? Daughter. Down. Dad. Daddy. Dad. Daddy. In the ancient land of Jade Lake, when the two baby girls were revived and opened their eyes, their bright and untainted eyes saw Wang Xian. They let out crisp and melodious cries. Each one of them cried out, causing him to be completely dumbfounded. When the two of them cried out again, the corner of his mouth could not help but twitch. Dad. What the fuck? They actually called me Dad. I have two daughters for no reason. Something's wrong. These two baby girls are obviously resurrected by the ancient gods. They might be much older than me. How could they call me Dad now? Moreover, the gods will have memories when they resurrect. What are you two little guys doing? Could it be that they lost their memories for some reason or that their memories didn't recover? Wang Xian's face turned black as he looked at the two baby girls who were lying on the lotus. Those innocent eyes were staring at him. One of the little guys was even waving her limbs as if she was very happy. What the fuck? What should I do? Is it urgent online? Wang Xian was caught off guard by the sudden addition of two daughters. He was not prepared to raise children. Otherwise, he, Guan Shuqing, and the rest would have had children long ago. With his strength, it was still very easy for him to have a child. However, after consideration by him and the girls, he decided not to have a child for the time being. If Wang Xian, Guan Shuqing, and the rest were to have a child now, the child would have the strength of the insightful Void Tear, which was the second change of the Divine Dragon Realm. However, if Wang Xian was able to reach the 9 changes of the Divine Dragon Realm and the girls were able to reach similar strength, their child would be able to possess the strength of the 5th change of the Divine Dragon Realm or even the 6th change of the Divine Dragon Realm as soon as it was born. Therefore, for the sake of their children's future, they decided to wait until they were stronger before having children. However, he never expected that they would have two daughters for no reason at all. I'm here to look for treasures, not to look for my daughters. Wang Xian felt a headache as he looked at the two little fellows. He had never felt such a headache even when he met so many enemies on the Transcendence continent. Now that he had two more little fellows, he felt extremely uncomfortable. Wa. Suddenly, the naughty baby girl started crying when she saw that Wang Xian ignored her. This gave Wang Xian an even greater headache. He felt that his head was about to explode. Don't cry. Wang Xian stretched out his hand and touched the crying little fellow. Wa. However, what made him helpless was that the little fellow ignored him and continued to cry. With a dark expression, Wang Xian took out 2 hollow-level fruits from his interspatial ring. The 2 wood-type fruits contained a huge amount of energy. However, these two baby girls were not mortals but the resurrection of fallen gods. They were not supported by the huge amount of energy at all. The two fruits were placed in front of them. The two little ones bit on them and realized that they could not break them. Wa. This was great. The two of them cried together, "What the fuck?" Wang Xian moved his palm and crushed the spirit fruits into liquid. The two little guys immediately stretched out their hands to wrap around his fingers and ate them in big mouthfuls. After the two spirit fruits were eaten, they blinked their eyes and looked at Wang Xian again. Foodie. Wang Xian took out two fruits of the first level of the demigod rank with a dark expression and crushed them into liquid. The two little fellows wrapped around his fingers and sucked continuously. Heh! When the two little fellows ate the two fruits of level 1 demigod, their bodies had obviously grown a lot bigger. It's alright, it's alright. If they really grow little by little like ordinary children, I won't have the time to raise them. Wang Xian's dark expression finally heaved a sigh of relief. After eating the two fruits, the two little fellows were about the size of a 1-year-old child. Perhaps they had eaten their fill. They narrowed their eyes and closed them slowly. They were asleep. We can't just leave them here, right? Wang Xian watched the two little fellows fall asleep and turned his head to look at Ao Jian and Ao Chitian and the two Draconid. The extremely cold Ao Jian, the extremely violent Ao Chitian, and the two Draconids who used to be killers. Forget it, let me carry them. Wang Xian took out some soft metal from his interspatial ring helplessly and made two beautiful clothes for them. After helping them put them on speechlessly, Wang Xian carried them up. They were a 1-year-old child. Their bodies were not very small anymore. One in each hand was perfect. The two little ones sensed the friendly aura and bowed their heads toward him. Without mentioning anything else, the two little girls were extremely exquisite and beautiful. They were like porcelain dolls. They were indeed goddesses. The two of them were obviously wood-attributed gods. After Wang Xian saved them, coupled with the fact that he had the ancestral tree, the two girls were exceptionally friendly to him. They treated him as their father. "Father, I'm not your father. I can't afford it either. Your real age is that of an old senior," Wang Xian mumbled as he held a porcelain doll in each hand. He looked at the star grass that was trapped at the side. The two star grass had quieted down and were suspended in the middle of the cage without moving. With a thought, the cage was released. The two star grass drew an arc in the sky and landed on their heads. Under the embellishment of the star grass, the two little fellows looked even cuter. To be able to possess two such mystical grass, it seems that the two of them weren't weak in the past. Wang Xian thought to himself. He took a glance at Ao Jian and Ao Chitian before walking straight out. Wang Xian walked out with the two ladies. "Quick, kill this fellow and let us enter." When Wang Xian just came out, he heard the sounds of battle outside. More than 100 people were surrounding and attacking a tree demon at level 8 of the see-through realm. There were more than a dozen people lying on the ground. Clearly, they were killed in the battle just now. Hey! They are out. At this moment, a young man who was bandaging his wounds by the side exclaimed when he saw Wang Xian and the rest walking out from inside. Whoosh! 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 Go to hell! An angry roar was heard. The last tree demon was killed. In an instant, everyone stared at Wang Xian with murderous intent in their eyes. When they saw Wang Xian carrying the two porcelain doll girls, they were slightly stunned. Why were there still two dolls? Could it be that they were carrying two children when they entered just now? Surround them. At this moment, a cold voice came from the mouth of an arrogant young man. The surrounding young and middle-aged men immediately surrounded Wang Xian. Everyone held their weapons and stared at them coldly. In the middle, two young men, a woman, and a middle-aged man stood proudly in the middle and swept their gaze across Wang Xian and the rest. Wang Xian swept his gaze across them, but there wasn't the slightest change in his expression. "Do you want to pluck our fruits? Do you want to commit suicide or do you want me to help you?" Chapter 1830. 1830 On the top of the 1830 heavens pride divine sun. He was dressed in a yellow robe and had large divine characters tattooed on his chest. He had a handsome face and stared at Wang Xian with a cold expression. The cold voice came from his mouth. Standing beside him was the middle-aged demigod. On both sides of him was a beautiful woman holding a wooden staff and a man dressed in bright colors. From the faint sounds they made when they entered, it could be deduced that the young man who spoke was the son of deity from the Ling Xiao treasured palace. The other woman was known as the Yarrow girl's heaven's favorite, while the other man was a flower with scars. He was also a heaven's favorite. Wang Xian, who was holding a girl in one hand, heard the son of deity's stern voice. His expression did not change at all. Hand over the treasures you obtained from inside immediately. The heaven's pride lady took 2 steps forward. Her eyes flickered as she stared at Wang Xian and said coldly and arrogantly. With her perfect body and exquisite face, she was worthy of being a heaven's pride lady. You dare to snatch the opportunity from me, who are you hen? TSK. The young man in gorgeous clothes played with the 2 beads in his hand as he stared at them indifferently. A son of deity and 2 heaven's pride experts. Their strength and reputation were well known in the entire eastern region. Out of the billions of people in the east, there were only 10 divine sons and 20 heaven's favorites. In the entire east, other than the powerhouses from the Ling Xiao treasured palace, their strength could also be ranked among the top. Their fame was no less than those top celebrities. Divine sons and heaven's favorite. Wang Xian saw their arrogant expressions and swept them lightly. These divine sons and heaven's favorites were all young men who had obtained great opportunities in the ancient land. To be able to reach such a realm at such a young age, even if it was on the transcendental continent, they were still the top existences on the continent. Don't provoke me. Wang Xian swept his gaze across them indifferently and walked straight ahead. Ao Jian, Ao Chitian, and the rest also swept their gazes coldly. They did not put the so-called divine sons and heaven's favorites in their eyes at all. The divine sons of the 9 heavens, Hua Yu Hen, and Yarrow Nu saw that the other party did not pay any attention to them. They were slightly stunned before their expressions turned cold. Do it, kill them. The divine sons of the 9 heavens shouted coldly. It's the divine sons. They dare to ignore our divine sons and heaven's favorites. They dare to barge in while we are killing the Treant. They are simply courting death. Do it. Around them, hundreds of young and middle-aged men did not hesitate at all. Instantly, they brandished their weapons and slashed at Wang Xian and the rest. Buzz. Ao Chitian waved his arm. One by one, the swords pierced through everyone who was attacking them. Bang, bang, bang. In an instant, hundreds of people froze. They slowly widened their eyes as disbelief appeared on their faces. It was as calm as the wind and cloud. How? How is this possible? More than a dozen of the experts at the profound void realm widened their eyes. They gently touched the back of their necks and fell to the ground. What? The expressions of the divine son of the 9th heaven, Hua Yu Hen, and Yarrow Nu changed drastically when they saw the young man in golden clothing kill all their subordinates with a wave of his arm. The demigod expert standing beside the divine son of the 9th heaven also tensed up. His eyes were fixed on Ao Jian. We are the soaring heaven's treasured palace. Which faction do you come from? The demigod expert stared at Ao Jian warily and asked with a frown. Dragon Palace. Ao Jian replied indifferently. He stretched out his arm and lightly slashed at the 4 people again. Not good. Divine son, be careful. The demigod expert's expression changed abruptly when he saw Ao Jian's attack. He moved his palm, and a long spear appeared in his hand. He stabbed forward several thousand times in a second. Damn it, how dare you attack us? Heaven and earth, our Ling Xiao treasured palace will definitely kill you. After the son of deity was stunned, he looked furious when he saw Ao Jian attack them again. He was the son of deity of Ling Xiao treasured palace, a son of deity who had entered the god ascension role. He stood proudly above everyone. Even the disciples of Ling Xiao treasured palace had to be respectful when they met him. Now, a guy dared to attack him, making him extremely angry. In the 9 heavens and 10 lands, who dared to attack him? Oh no. When the demigod middle-aged man heard the divine son's words, his expression changed drastically. Fuck him, TSK TSK, it's been a long time since someone dared to challenge me. Hua Yuhen, who was at the side, also waved his arm. A fan embroidered with various flowers and plants appeared in his hand. He waved his hand, and numerous thorns appeared in front of him. Clang! However, at this moment, Ao Jian waved his hand, and a 5-meter-long sharp sword condensed and slashed directly at them. The spear light emitted by the demigod middle-aged man's longsword was directly shattered by the resplendent sword light. Dharma idol, Ling Xiao 1 point. When the demigod middle-aged man saw that his attack was easily shattered, he was shocked and immediately roared. At the front of the long spear, an incomparably resplendent golden glow appeared. The entire world seemed to be centered around that golden glow. Bang! However, when the golden sword landed on it, it was as though it was competing with the bright moon as it was directly melted. The sharp sword attacked them once again. Son of deity, run! The middle-aged demigod hurriedly shouted. What? The expression of the son of deity of the 9 heavens, who was extremely arrogant and didn't put Wang Xian in his eyes, changed drastically. As the son of deity, he was listed on the god-sealing roll. The Lingxiao treasured palace immediately sent a demigod to protect him. This was an existence on the level of a demigod. No one on earth could be a match for a demigod. Light chaotic sword, frenzied sword. The expression of the son of deity of the 9 heavens also changed drastically as he attacked forward with his long swords. He hurriedly dodged to the side. Damn it, flower-patterned fan, attack. Hua Yuhen, who held the flower-patterned fan in his hand, narrowed his eyes and hurriedly retreated. He didn't expect that the demigod expert beside the divine son of the 9th heaven wouldn't be able to block his attack. The expression of the heaven's proud woman beside him also changed drastically as she dodged to the side. Pu. However, the moment they dodged, the long sword instantly landed on the demigod's body and easily killed him. Following that, the long sword continued to attack the 9th heaven divine son. Damn it, God Ascension roll, save me. When the 9th heaven divine son saw that the demigod protecting him was directly killed, his expression was horrified. He immediately roared loudly. Buzz! A golden cloth appeared around him. The cloth slowly wrapped around him. Boom! The golden long sword landed on it with a muffled sound. The golden cloth blocked the attack of the golden sharp sword. The sharp sword disappeared, and the son of deity of the 9th heaven revealed a shocked expression. You are a demigod expert, and not an ordinary demigod. He stared at Ao Jian with his eyes wide open. His expression was unsightly as he roared. Clang, clang, clang. Ao Jian saw that his casual attack had actually been blocked. His gaze flickered as he stared at the golden cloth strip. He pulled out his long sword, and numerous sharp sword rays attacked at a terrifying speed. Pu, pu, pu. This attack was incomparably terrifying. They didn't even hear the sound of the sword rays. Soon after, the sound of a sharp sword piercing through rang out. The expressions of the heavens favored Yarrow Nu and Hua Yuhen changed drastically. They stared blankly at the divine son of the 9th heaven. Chapter 1831. 1831 Under the body of the 1831 heaven's favorites. How is this possible? How dare you kill me? Our Lingxiao treasured palace won't let you off. We won't let you off. In the Jade Lake ancient land, the son of deity of the 9th heaven stared at his chest in a daze. 3 sharp swords pierced through the golden cloth around his body and pierced through his chest, causing him to stagger and stare at Ao Jian and the others with ashen faces. How? How is this possible? Ju Tian is a divine son on the God Ascension board. Once you are on the God Ascension board, you will receive the protection of the God Ascension board. Even peak-stage demigod experts would find it difficult to kill you. Hua Yuhen watched this scene with a face full of shock. His eyes were wide open and filled with fear. You actually dare to kill me, Lingxiao treasured palace. Yarrow Nu's face was pale as she retreated. She was filled with disbelief. Those who were able to become divine sons and enter the God Ascension list were all disciples that the Lingxiao treasured palace had specially nurtured. With a demigod expert protecting them closely, one could imagine how much the Lingxiao treasured palace valued them. Now, this group of people actually dared to kill a divine son. Were they not afraid of the Lingxiao treasured palace's pursuit? That was a god from beyond the heavens. What shocked her even more was that the middle-aged swordsman was able to kill a demigod with a single strike and break through the God Ascension Board's defense. It was simply terrifying. Since when had such an expert appeared in the East? Buzz. At the same time, in front of the vast Lingxiao treasured palace, a towering pillar stood in the sky over 100,000 meters in the sky. 3 words were written on the pillar, the God-sealing roll. Each word emitted divine light and possessed mysterious and unfathomable power. Even on the ground, these 3 words could be clearly seen on the God-sealing roll. Below the 3 horizontal words, there were names. There were 20 to 30 names on it, and there was also a list of divine sons at the bottom. There were only 10 divine sons on the divine son roll. Each divine son could be said to be the most outstanding existence in the current era. The first few divine sons were all disciples who had descended with the Lingxiao treasured palace. At the 5th place was a name, 9 Heavens. 9 Heavens' divine son, a peerless young genius from Earth, had entered the God Ascension roll and was conferred the title of divine son by the Lingxiao treasured palace. However, at this moment, the incomparably huge God Ascension list trembled slightly. The name that belonged to the son of deity of the 9 Heavens slowly disappeared. The change in the God Ascension list instantly attracted the attention of the entire Lingxiao treasured palace. The son of deity of the 9 Heavens is dead. The 9 Heavens has fallen. He has the protection of a demigod and the God Ascension list. How could he have fallen? Could it be that he encountered a powerful creature in the ancient land? 9 Heavens' divine son has actually died. How is this possible? 9 Heavens is the first disciple of the Lingxiao treasured palace to die. The entire Lingxiao treasured palace was shaken. However, on the ground, even if it was more than 100,000 meters tall, everyone could clearly see every name and every word on the God Ascension roll. When a name disappeared, it caused a huge shock. Divine sons were the most resplendent existences in this era. They appeared out of thin air like stars. They stood high above on the God Ascension board and were revered by everyone. However, a divine son's name had disappeared. This meant that a divine son might perish. The death of a divine son caused a huge uproar. If it wasn't for the death of a god not too long ago, the death of a divine son might have shaken the world. Even so, everyone was shocked. Gulp, don't kill me, please don't kill me. When Hua Yuhen saw the divine son of the 9th heaven lying on the ground, he swallowed a mouthful of saliva and his face was full of fear. After he said that, he hurriedly fled into the distance. No. Yarrow Nu retreated backward with a pale face. Stupid. Ao Jian looked at them indifferently. With a wave of his arm, 2 cold sharp swords directly attacked. No. Yarrow Nuan saw the sharp swords that instantly arrived in front of her, and her eyes were filled with despair. Her forehead was covered with cold sweat. Ever since she became a favored son of heaven, for the first time, she felt fear and despair. Wait. She closed her eyes with a face full of despair. However, at this moment, a voice suddenly sounded. Crack, crack. Following that, she heard the sound of a sharp sword breaking. She widened her eyes and saw that the sharp sword in front of her had disappeared. It was panting heavily. Her chest that was heaving up and down made her look extremely agitated. At this moment, she heard a scream coming from the side. She widened her eyes and looked over immediately. The flower had a scar on it. It fell to the ground without any signs of life. Her heart trembled. She looked at Wang Xian and the rest with a horrified expression. Her body was trembling slightly. I'll spare your life. Will you follow us in the future? Do you know how to coax children? It's fine even if you don't. Learn from us in the future. Come here. At this moment, she heard the young man who was carrying 2 children speaking to her. Yarrow Nu was slightly stunned. Her slightly frightened face was filled with astonishment. Didn't you hear that? Her body froze. At this moment, she heard the young man's slightly impatient voice again. At this moment, she sensed the extremely cold voice of the middle-aged swordsman beside the young man. His here. Her heart trembled slightly as she walked over hurriedly. Hold them. Wang Xian stretched out both his hands and handed the two little guys to her. Yarrow Enyu was a little stunned. She was the proud daughter of the heavens. She was revered by thousands of people and admired by countless people. It was no exaggeration to say that she was a goddess who stood high and mighty. Now, she was actually allowed to hold the little guys. This. However, she didn't dare to refuse. She stretched out her arms hurriedly with a face full of nervousness. Daddy hug, daddy hug. However, at this moment, a little guy suddenly woke up. When he saw Wang Xian handing her over, he immediately cried out loudly. Drops of tears flowed out and landed on his arm. Wa. One of them cried while the other one, who was still asleep, was pleasantly surprised and started crying out loud. My great aunt, come here, let me hug you. Wang Xian felt that his ears were about to explode. He stretched his arms forward. However, when he stretched out his arms, his cries became even louder. It was as if there were hundreds of larks chirping beside his ears. One of them sounded pleasant, but a few hundred of them sounded uncomfortable. All right, don't cry. Wang Xian hugged her and comforted her. He didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Condense a milk bottle for them. Wang Xian immediately ordered Yarrow Enyu. Yarrow Enyu nodded her head in a flustered manner. When she saw the two girls who looked like porcelain dolls, the fear in her heart lessened by a lot. She moved the wooden staff in her hand and two milk bottles slowly condensed. Wang Xian's heart stirred. Two spiritual fruits of the demigod level appeared in front of him. Under his control, the spiritual fruits were crushed into juice and entered the milk bottles. Here, you two ladies. Wang Xian thought of something and placed the two milk bottles beside their mouths. Gulp. Instinctively, the two little cuties opened their small mouths and wrapped them up. A pair of small hands grabbed them. Their eyes that were free of impurities were filled with happiness. Chapter 1832. 1832. In 1832, the Dragon King's nanny was in the city. Here. The two little cuties grabbed the milk bottle and drank a few mouthfuls of spirit fruit juice. Then, they laughed happily. One of the naughty little ones threw the milk bottle in his hand. Then, he grabbed Wang Xian's arm and was about to climb up his head. Looking at such a cute little girl, Wang Xian couldn't help but be overwhelmed by his father. After all, Wang Xian was already 35 or 36 years old. If he were on Earth in the past, his child might even be 10 years old. Looking at the two cute porcelain dolls, his heart couldn't help but soften. Sigh, looks like I'll have to be a wet nurse in the future. Wang Xian let the little girl grab his arm and crawl away. Even though the girl who was resurrected by the gods looked like she was only 1 year old now, her movements were very agile. She grabbed Wang Xian's hair and slowly rode on his neck. The corner of Wang Xian's mouth twitched as he pinched her cheeks lovingly. Giggle. The little one giggled. It was obvious that she was very happy. The other little one was lying in Wang Xian's arms, quietly wrapping the milk bottle. One was quiet while the other was mischievous. Let me give you a name. You shall be called Wang Xiaya, and you shall be called Wang Huara. Huara sir, not bad. Wang Xian pinched the quiet little guy in his arms. With a wave of his arm, the milk bottle on the ground flew to Huara. Daddy. She took the milk bottle with one hand and grabbed Wang Xian's hair with the other hand. She kept screaming and kicking her legs. All right, don't be so naughty. Wang Xian touched his hair speechlessly. He was the dignified Dragon King and now he was being ridden by two little kids. If the people from the supernatural continent knew about this, they would definitely be dumbfounded. Let's go out. As Wang Xian spoke, he walked toward the exit. This time, after entering the ancient land, he kept feeling that he had not obtained any treasures and that he had suffered a huge loss. Yarrow Enyu, who was standing at the side, looked at this scene with a shocked expression. What did she see? The young man in front of her directly crushed a demigod-level fruit into juice and fed it to the two children. This was a demigod-level spirit fruit. Even she was once able to become the favored daughter of the heavens because she obtained a demigod-level fruit. Now, this young man didn't even blink as he directly fed the two little girls demigod-level fruits. Most importantly, the two little girls didn't explode from the violent energy. This completely overturned her understanding. This group of people is dominated by this young man. The rest are all his subordinates. Soon, she discovered a problem. Even the middle-aged swordsman who had attacked just now had to step back and stand by his side. Obviously, this young man was respected. In addition to casually taking out a demigod-level spirit fruit, Yarrow Nu knew that this young man in front of her was absolutely extraordinary. She hurriedly followed closely behind, but soon found that she couldn't keep up with their speed. At this time, a sharp sword appeared under her feet and flew toward the eastern exit with her at a loss. She was a proud daughter of heaven that was the focus of everyone's attention. Could it be that she would become a maid in the future? And she would have to serve two girls? Her mind was in chaos. However, when she thought of the encounter between the son of deity and Hua Wuhan, she felt lucky. If she were a man, she would probably be dead. They quickly flew toward the eastern entrance and soon arrived at the exit. Hua was riding on Wang Xian's neck. She held the milk bottle in one hand and his hair in the other as she looked around curiously. Cai, who was in her arms, also raised her head and looked at the world outside curiously. With a star grass on their heads, they looked adorable. When they reached the entrance, it was obvious that there were more people coming in and out. Soon, some people were surprised when they saw Wang Xian walking out with two babies. "You're good, brother. You brought two babies with you when you entered the ancient land. Be careful." A few young men who were walking inside shouted at Wang Xian with smiles on their faces. "Hihi, it's nothing." Wang Xian smiled faintly when he heard their friendly reminder. The jade lady behind him immediately put on a veil. She didn't dare to let others know that she, the proud daughter of the heavens, had become a maid to help others coax their children. The name of the son of deity of the 9 heavens on the god-sealing roll has disappeared. Not long ago, he seemed to have entered the ancient land of the Jade Lake. Could it be that he died in the ancient land? It seems that other than the son of deity of the 9th heaven, the heavens-favored Yarrow Nu and Hua Yuhen have also entered. I wonder what terrifying existence the son of deity of the 9th heaven has encountered. Not long ago, the world mourned and a rainstorm poured down from the ocean. It's rumored that the sea god died. I don't know if it's true or not, but now, the son of deity has also died. Just as they walked out of the Jade Lake ancient land, all sorts of voices came from outside. The east gate of the ancient land of Jade Lake was even more bustling than the west gate. There were many streets in the surroundings, and there were all kinds of shops on both sides. There were many people gathered here. Currently, the most bustling place on earth was around the ancient land. The other first-tier cities and second-tier cities no longer existed. Wang Xian, Ao Jian, Ao Chitian, and the others walked straight ahead with the two kids. The two kids looked around. Boom! At this moment, a loud noise came from the front. A pet egg of a level 1 demigod. Oh my god, there's actually a monster pet egg of a level 1 demigod in the divine pet group. Oh my god. I heard that a few people from a powerful group appeared and wanted to take down this pet egg on the spot. All the powerhouses who received the news have come over. The divine pet group wouldn't sell it right now, right? They would definitely sell it. The pet group doesn't have a powerful force to protect this pet egg. Once some powerhouses get wind of it, they might come and snatch it away. After all, the news of the level 1 demigod pet has been known by others. Just as Wang Xian and the rest were walking out, loud noises could be heard. He looked ahead and saw many powerhouses flying over from the surrounding sky. There were also demonic beasts flying over with their proud sons. Among them, Wang Xian, who was at the see-through level, discovered 5 to 6 of them. According to his understanding during this period of time, a see-through level expert was already considered a top-notch expert on Earth. A see-through level expert could be comparable to a company that had a market value of hundreds of millions in the past. A proud son of heaven could be comparable to a company that had a market value of tens of billions. Earth's native see-through level experts were still rare existences. Wang Xian was not interested in the pet egg of a level 1 demigod. In his eyes, this item was not worth much. Let's go to Jiang City. Wang Xian did not want to delay any longer and flew straight into the sky. Everyone, please don't crowd around. Our pet group has indeed obtained a level 1 demigod pet. Please take a look. Right here, many of the bosses of the pet group have also rushed over. Our pet group cannot let everyone come here for nothing. The auction will be held immediately after 2 hours. Just as Wang Xian and the rest were flying into the sky, a voice came from the sky in front of them. A pet egg was floating in the air. It was only the size of a palm and was emitting a strong green glow. It was like an emerald that was emitting light. It was extremely mystical. In front of the pet egg, the 5 elders were looking around vigilantly. They were afraid that someone would come and snatch it. Wang Xian took a glance and prepared to fly into the distance. Daddy, that, I want it. At this moment, he suddenly felt his hair tightening. The tender voice of the flower could be heard from it. An ordinary pet egg. We don't want it. Daddy will make a good one for you in the future, Wang Xian said to the flower helplessly. Wah, I want it, Daddy, Daddy. However, the cry of the flower immediately came from above his head. Following that, Wang Xian felt a warm current flowing into his neck. What the fuck? I peed. After all, she was a fallen goddess. How could she pee? Chapter 1833. 1833. In 1833, the Dragon King's nanny was in the city. Wang Xian's body was suspended in the sky stiffly as he felt the warm current on his neck. His face was as dark as it could be. He was the mighty Dragon King. Not only was he being peed on by a little girl, he was even peed on his neck. What was this? The little water had rushed into the Dragon King temple. He hurriedly carried the flowers down. With a move of his body, the warm current on his body dissipated immediately. Little girl, if you need to pee in the future, just let me know, okay? Wang Xian pretended to be serious as he shouted at her. Wah, I want that. However, the little girl didn't care about him at all. She kept crying. Wang Xian had a helpless look on his face. He took out a water-absorbing metal from his interspatial ring and gave it to the little girl as a diaper. Seer is more obedient. Let me carry her first. I will tidy up the flowers first. Wang Xian was flustered as he looked at Seer, who was lying quietly in his arms, and gestured to the heaven's favorite Yarrow Enyu beside him. Oh. Yarrow Enyu nodded her head quickly. She reached out her hand and carefully carried Seer in her arms. At this moment, she was extremely astonished. For this young man in front of her to have such a powerful subordinate, his strength must be extremely terrifying. She didn't expect that he would be in such a sorry state because of the 2 little girls. Wah. Seer struggled and cried out unhappily when she saw Wang Xian leaving his embrace. Be good, we are here to look after Daddy, Yarrow Enyu said hurriedly. Why are you so mischievous? You must be my little sister. All right, stop crying. Daddy will buy that pet egg for you, all right? Wang Xian said speechlessly as he coaxed. The little fella was indeed strange. After a few words of coaxing, he stopped crying. He stared at Wang Xian with his big, innocent eyes and started giggling. Faced with such a cute little fella, Wang Xian couldn't be angry at all. Just treat it as being a father in advance. Fuck, if I knew this would happen, I wouldn't have entered the ancient land of Jade Lake. He grumbled in his heart. Daddy. Seer, who was being carried by Yarrow Enyu, saw Wang Xian tidying up the flowers. She stretched out her hand and shouted. Good. Wang Xian stretched out his hand and hugged Seer, holding a baby in each hand. Move. At this moment, a loud shout came from behind. Her. Yarrow Enyu looked over. Ao Jian, Ao Chitian, and the rest also turned their heads indifferently. Get out of the way. At the rear, more than 10 middle-aged, old men riding demon beasts were rushing over. At the rear, 4 demon beasts were pulling a sedan and flying over aggressively. You want us to get out of the way? Seeing them rushing over, Yarrow Enyu's face turned cold, and her aura rushed forward. Roar, roar, roar. The demonic beast that was charging toward them staggered slightly and trembled slightly. Her! The people on the demonic beast were slightly shocked. Don't cause trouble. The pet egg is the most important thing. At this moment, a middle-aged voice came from the car behind them. It's the chairman. The dozen people in front hurriedly replied. Their eyes swept over Yarrow Nu, and their eyes were shining. Chempate. Yarrow Nu stared at them and snorted in disdain. She was a proud daughter of the heavens and had an honorable status. In the past, when she went out, she was pulled by a demonic beast at the insightful void level. There were dozens of followers beside her. Now, someone actually shouted at her and made way for her. Even if she was reduced to a prisoner, it was not something that an ordinary person could offend. Hee. Wang Xian looked at Yarrow Nu and smiled. Sir. Seeing that Wang Xian was looking at her, Yarrow Nu's expression changed slightly. Instantly, she became extremely nervous and lowered her head as she shouted. Yarrow Nu was extremely fearful of the group of people in front of her. They even dared to kill the son of deity from the Ling Xiao treasure palace. If they didn't want their lives, they must be extremely confident. The chairman of the Tianling group is here personally. It's not just the Tianling group. Fenghua group and Longkai group are here as well. This is a well-known group. Sounds of shock could be heard from the surroundings. When the group of people arrived, the people in front of them immediately made way for them. Is there still an internet connection? Wang Xian listened to the voices around him and asked Yarrow Nu. Yes, sir. This is my mobile phone. What do you want to search for? Yarrow Nu immediately took out a mobile phone. It was a folding phone with a full screen and could be opened. When Wang Xian left Earth in the past, this kind of high-tech mobile phone had just come out. Check the current situation on Earth, such as factions and so on, Wang Xian said. Yes. The Tianshuan Network Group has established a forum. Almost everyone is using it now. There are many latest news in it. Yarrow Nu stood beside Wang Xian and opened the forum for him. Although she was surprised that Wang Xian didn't know about this matter, she didn't dare to ask further. Okay. Wang Xian nodded and looked at the forum on his phone. Heaven's Pride ranking, God Ascension ranking, Son of Deity, Ancient Land, Weapons, Elixirs, Pet. Group ranking. The latest news had shocked the world. There was a huge change in the Pacific Ocean, and it was suspected that the sea god had fallen. There were all kinds of news, but it was somewhat similar to the previous Jianghu forum. Daddy. At this moment, the extremely mischievous flower started to move in his arms again. Wang Xian was helpless and could only coax the little guy first. What are you doing? He pinched the little fella's face helplessly. Why? She shouted and reached out her little hand to grab his clothes. She climbed up his neck once again, wanting to pee on his neck. Wang Xian reached out his hand to grab her and placed her on his neck. He wanted to be a good nanny. Giddy up. The little fella saw someone riding on a Pegasus in front and was shouting softly. He also imitated her and grabbed Wang Xian's hair, making a tender sound. Daddy, giddy up. Cluck, cluck, cluck. Cheerful voice from her mouth. Wang Xian let her grasp. Let's go. Wang Xian said to the flowers, want to leave quickly, too shameful. No, whoa, I want that. Okay, we'll wait here and buy it for you later. Wang Xian said helplessly. It seems that this little guy is interested in that pet egg. More and more people were gathered around. One by one, the group stood at the front. Boom, boom, boom. I'm here. Can the pet auction begin now? Not long after, an extremely cool supercar let out a rumbling sound. From a distance, it was like a bolt of lightning as it drove towards them. The rumbling sound attracted the attention of many people. A young man with a body full of golden light came out from the car. He held a beautiful woman in his arms as he looked at the pet egg in the sky with a flash of passion in his eyes. He laughed loudly as he asked, "Oh, young Master Jin of the Spirit Vein Group, I didn't expect him to actually come. The Spirit Vein Group is a top-tier group. They are famous for being rich. The arrival of the young man attracted the attention of the surrounding people. The company's chairman and higher-ups who had rushed over also slightly frowned when they saw the arrival of the young man. Chapter 1834. 1834. In 1834, the Dragon King's father-in-law was in the city. Jin Yue, a very common name, the eldest son of the Spirit Vein Group. The Spirit Vein Group was quite lucky. They found a spirit vein and used 5 years to rise up and establish the now famous Spirit Vein Group. The Spirit Vein Group is famous for being rich and recruiting many experts. They have a good relationship with a divine son of the Lingxiao treasured palace. Jin Yue has the strength of a 5th-level void interpretation. He is highly regarded by outsiders and has the chance to become a heaven's favorite. When the Yarrow girl saw the arrival of the young man, she revealed a slightly solemn expression. Although this fellow's strength was not as good as hers, he had a strong background. Sir, the Spirit Vein Group is famous for being rich. If you want to buy that pet egg, he is a strong and powerful opponent. Yarrow Nu continued to remind Wang Xian while trying to please him. A strong and powerful opponent. Wang Xian smiled when he heard her words. If it weren't for Hua who wanted this pet egg, he wouldn't even take a second look at her. I didn't expect young Master Jin to be here as well. Young Master Jin is really lucky. It wasn't easy for us to get our hands on this demigod-level wood attribute demonic beast pet egg. Above them, the higher-ups of the God Pet Group were delighted when they saw the young master of the Spirit Vein Group arrive. They had wanted to incubate the demigod-level pet egg secretly, but they didn't expect the news to leak out. With the strength of their God Pet Group, they didn't have the strength to keep the pet. After the news leaked out, they were very scared. If an expert came to snatch it, they couldn't do anything about it. They had no choice but to sell it quickly. Now, they only hoped to sell it at a good price. Seeing the Spirit Vein Group's eldest young master arrive, a trace of joy appeared on his face. At least the price of this pet wouldn't be too low. Haha, since I'm here, then tell me a price. I'll take it. Jin Yue laughed arrogantly and shouted at them. Young Master Jin, you might not be able to take this pet egg with you. As soon as Jin Yue finished his words, an old man's voice came from the side. The old man held the dragon-headed walking stick and said expressionlessly, Old Man Tian is right. Since it's being auctioned, the one with the highest price will get it. A middle-aged man beside him said faintly, Haha, let's start the bidding. Everyone from the Pet God Corporation, let's begin. Some things are hard to come by in the future if you don't have them in the beginning. Our Spirit Vein Corporation will definitely take this pet egg. Jin Yue laughed loudly and shouted with confidence. He leaned on the sports car, held the beauty beside him, and lit a cigarette. He looked extremely handsome. Hee, all right. Since young Master Jin has said that it's time to start, then we won't wait any longer. I'm sure everyone knows the value of a demigod rank 1 divine pet. It's completely priceless. Now, the auction price of 100 million high-grade spirit stones will begin. The price cannot be lower than 1 million high-grade spirit stones each time. An old man from the Divine Pet Group shouted with a smile on his face. Hiss, 100 million upper-grade spirit stones. Oh my god, that's 100 million upper-grade spirit stones. It's really expensive. However, 100 million upper-grade spirit stones is about the same. After all, if we nurture him, he will be a demigod-level powerhouse. Nurturing him will also cost a lot of resources. It seems that we can only watch those few groups fight for it. Tens of thousands of people gathered in the surrounding area. When they heard the auction price, their faces were filled with shock. Haha, 100 million. Everyone, please consider it carefully. Raising a Tier 1 demigod pet will require more than 100 million high-grade spirit stones. Jin Yue immediately raised his hand and shouted. Young Master Jin, you don't have to worry about that. Our Tianling group still has the ability. 101 million. The chairman of the Tianling group who spoke just now shouted. 102 million. Fengkai group, 102 million. Do you have any more? 103 million. 104 million. Haha, too slow. 110 million. This divine pet, Our Spirit Vein Group will definitely take it. Young Master Jin bids 110 million, 110 million. Do you have any more? The auction began. 4 or 5 groups competed with Jin Yue one by one, and the prices rapidly increased. Everyone's breathing quickened as they watched the auction. With an increase of 1,000,000,1,000,000 high-grade spirit stones, the current 1 million high-grade spirit stones could not be compared to 1 million renminbi. If measured in terms of money, the value of 1 million high-grade spirit stones was equivalent to 100 million renminbi in the past. The starting price of a demigod first-grade pet egg was equivalent to 10 million RMB in the past. Hiss, this is crazy. These big corporations are really willing to risk their lives for this pet egg. Young Master Jin is obviously more confident now. Spirit Vein Corporation is too rich. I guess this pet egg will be obtained by Spirit Vein Corporation. Young Master Jin is too confident. The surrounding voices of discussion could be heard. The auction continued, and no one dared to speak loudly. The entire surroundings seemed to be quiet. Daddy, Daddy, I want it, I want it. At this moment, a clear and melodious voice sounded. In the midst of the intense auction, it seemed to be somewhat clear. Some people looked over and saw a young girl riding on top of a young man. They smiled. Little cutie, did you hear what young Master Jin said just now? Some things aren't there when they were born. It will be very difficult to obtain them in the future. A girl turned around and said with a smile when she saw the cute flower. 200 million upper-grade spirit stones. Who else dares to fight with my Spirit Vein Group? Haha, this pet will definitely belong to me, Jin Yue. In the future, it will follow me to conquer the world and become a heaven's favorite. At this moment, Jin Yue's proud voice came from the front. He held a cigarette in his mouth and glanced at a few company chairmen and executives who looked embarrassed. Then, he said with a loud laugh. A few of the company's upper echelons shook their heads helplessly. 200 million high-grade spirit stones. The Spirit Vein Group was too rich. When the few upper echelons of the Pet God Group saw this scene, they were certain that this demigod pet was going to fall into the hands of the Spirit Vein Group. Everyone around looked at Jin Yue with envy. Dad, I want it, I want it, I want that. Hua heard the girl's words and saw that the pet egg was about to be bought. She blinked her eyes and grabbed Wang Xian's hair with all her might as she shouted. It must be said that this little fellow's voice was very loud. Okay, Daddy will buy it for you now. Wang Xian said immediately and grabbed her little feet helplessly. Haha, interesting, interesting. I don't have time to coax you guys here. Give me the pet egg. Jin Yue heard their words and looked towards Wang Xian. Looking at the little girl who was riding on the neck of a young man, he laughed out loud. He stood up and announced with a loud laugh. His arrogant tone made the upper echelons of the companies look a little embarrassed. Was he comparing the auction earlier to coaxing them? Coaxing a child? Chapter 1835. 1835 Was the 1835 pet egg delicious? Let's go. This, young Master Jin is so confident. Just now, he was competing with the higher-ups of several large corporations. He actually said that he was coaxing a child. Now, I just want to know how much money the Spirit Vein Corporation has. With such confidence, even if a divine son came, he wouldn't be able to compete with them. Divine son? The divine son is just very talented and powerful. In terms of wealth, he's far inferior to the Spirit Vein Corporation. Perhaps only those powerful demigods in the Lingxiao Treasured Palace can compete with the Spirit Vein Corporation. Hearing young Master Jin's arrogant words, everyone around was shocked. 200 million upper-grade spirit stones. If no one raises the price, then this pet egg will belong to young Master Jin. The senior executives of the God Pet Corporation were also very happy with the sale of 200 million upper-grade spirit stones. They shouted at him with smiles on their faces. Haha, although it doesn't match my attributes very well, the supporting functions of wood-type demonic beasts are very powerful. Young Master Jin stared at the pet egg with burning eyes as he said with a loud laugh. To be able to obtain a demigod rank 1 pet egg today was a great opportunity for him. 250 million. However, at this moment, a voice suddenly sounded from behind. 250 million. When these 5 words entered everyone's ears, young Master Jin's excited expression instantly froze. He suddenly turned his head. Everyone around also turned their heads in shock. When they saw the young man with a girl in his arms and a girl riding on his neck, everyone was slightly stunned again. Just now, the girl riding on the young man's neck said that she wanted a pet egg, but young Master Jin took over and said that he would coax the child to ridicule the big corporation. Now, the father of the child actually offered 250 million. This. Kid, are you coaxing the child? You have to take responsibility for what you said. Jin Yue's expression changed slightly. He stared coldly at Wang Xian and growled in an embarrassed manner. It's not like you coax a child like this. Wang Xian glanced at Jin Yue indifferently and said, "What? This, he really wants to buy it. Who is this person? 250 million. Only a handful of people can afford so many spirit stones. You must be joking. Who is he? Haven't you seen him before?" Everyone around was slightly stunned. They looked at Wang Xian with astonishment. This young man, you are not joking, right? A few higher-ups of the pet group looked at Wang Xian in astonishment. They pursed their lips and asked, "Wow." Wang Xian took out an interspatial ring. He waved it gently and threw it directly to the higher-ups of the pet group. Pa. An old man stretched out his hand in astonishment and took it. When he saw the spirit stones inside, his eyes widened in shock. The entire interspatial ring had an area of more than 10,000 cubic meters. This was the first time he had seen such a huge interspatial ring. And inside the interspatial ring were countless spirit stones. There were at least 200 million spirit stones inside. It was estimated that there were 2 billion spirit stones inside. Gulp. The old man swallowed a mouthful of saliva as his fingers trembled. "Young master, are you sure you want to buy it for 250 million spirit stones?" The old man's expression changed drastically. If they could get their hands on the spirit stones inside, they would definitely be able to become one of the top powers on Earth. Who was this young man? What was his identity? How could he possibly take out so many spirit stones? Heavens, and he actually dared to show his interspatial ring to him. Was it because he was confident? He couldn't afford to offend him. He immediately dispelled the greed in his heart and straightened his expression. "Of course. Do you have the qualifications?" Wang Xian nodded his head faintly. "Yes, of course, young master has the qualifications. Your interspatial ring." The elder from the God Pet group nodded his head hurriedly and replied. His arm trembled slightly as he returned the interspatial ring to Wang Xian. 250 million. "Young Master Jin, do you want to continue the bidding?" The old man looked at Jin Yue and asked. "What?" Jin Yue's expression changed drastically. His expression turned gloomy as he asked, "Does he have the ability?" "Young Master Jin, I have already verified that this young master has the ability." The old man nodded his head heavily. His eyes sparkled as he looked at Wang Xian with some respect. If this pet and that young man wanted it, there was nothing that young Master Jin could do about it. When the senior executives of the God Pet group saw the old man's expression, their faces were filled with astonishment. My God, does this young man really have the qualifications? What is his identity? Good heavens, 250 million. Is he buying it for his daughter? This is too extravagant. If his daughter wants a pet, he will buy it for her. This is the pinnacle of his life. What is the identity of this young man? Everyone was shocked. They thought that this young man was trying to coax a child. They didn't expect that he would actually buy it. This had completely overturned their understanding. Everyone swallowed a mouthful of saliva in unison. 260 million. Jin Yue's expression changed drastically. He gritted his teeth and shouted loudly. 300 million. As soon as he finished his sentence, Wang Xian's soft voice sounded as though 300 million was nothing in front of him. Indeed, it was nothing. Even though the Transcendence continent was dominated by middle-grade spirit stones, there were still quite a number of upper-grade spirit stones. Currently, the number of upper-grade spirit stones in the entire Transcendence continent was more than 10 billion or 100 billion. Wang Xian had brought along at most 1% of them, which was equivalent to a few billion upper-grade spirit stones, 300 million, and he directly increased it by 40 million. Who is he? Is he the higher-ups of the Lingxiao treasured palace? Oh my god, this pet egg of the first-level demigod is not worth 300 million at all. When everyone heard Wang Xian's voice again, they opened their mouths slightly. Is he fucking a tycoon? When Jin Yue heard the number of 300 million, his expression changed drastically. He never expected such a person to appear out of nowhere. 300 million to buy a pet egg for his daughter. There are indeed some things that are hard to come by in the future. This little doll is so blessed. The lady who spoke to Wang Xian and the rest just now looked at him in a daze. What a hidden card. Excuse me, young Master Jin, would you like to raise the price? At this moment, the most excited people were the upper echelons of the God Pet Group. This auction was a huge profit. Jin Yue's expression changed when he heard the God Pet Group's words. 300 million, a total of 300 million. Even if their group wanted to take out 300 million in one go, they would still have to consider it. Congratulations, young master. The first-level demigod wood-type demon beast pet egg belongs to you now. Hehe, your daughter seems to be wood-type as well. It's a good opportunity for her to grow up together with your beloved daughter. When the higher-ups of the pet group saw that Jin Yue remained silent with a gloomy face, they knew that he would not raise the price anymore. With such a price, no one would raise the price anymore. The elder from the pet group held the pet egg respectfully and walked towards Wang Xian. Chapter 1836. 1836. How was the 1836 pet egg? Next. It's a demigod tier 1 pet. To have a demigod tier 1 pet at birth is really enviable. When that girl grows up, her pet will also reach the peak. This is equivalent to the treatment of a divine son, god-level tycoon, really god-level tycoon. I wonder what identity this god-level tycoon has. In front of the Jade Lake ancient land, everyone's faces were filled with shock and envy as they looked at the higher-ups of the God Pet Group respectfully sending the pet egg over. The little girl asked for the pet egg and her father immediately bought it. How could such a powerful father not be envied? Young master, here you are. A wood elemental pet will definitely be able to accompany your daughter to grow up quickly. The elder of the pet group handed it over respectfully and said with a smile. Okay. Wang Xian nodded and took the pet egg under everyone's envious gaze. The pet egg wasn't very big. It was about the size of an adult's palm, and it wasn't very heavy either. It was emitting a green glow, just like an emerald. Here, flower. Wang Xian handed the pet egg to the little guy on top of his head. Giggle, giggle, giggle. The little guy was ecstatic when he saw the pet egg that was emitting a bright glow. She took the pet egg with both of her hands. Following that, she did something that shocked everyone. Crack, crack. She held the pet egg and opened her mouth to bite it. However, she couldn't break the hard pet egg at all. Yah, I can't bite it. I want to eat it. Seeing that she couldn't bite it, the little guy angrily bit it again with his mouth. Hey, young master, your daughter is so cute. The old man from the God Pet Group said with a smile when he saw the flower. The porcelain doll-like girl was holding a demigod-level pet and saying that she was going to bite it and eat it. Her appearance was indeed quite cute. This little doll is so cute, it's simply too cute. Haha, how interesting, she actually wants to bite and eat it. She's really a little foodie. This is a pet egg worth 300 million high-grade spirit stones, and she actually wants to eat it. This little girl is just like a porcelain doll. She puts everything into her mouth. Everyone around had a kind smile on their faces. They felt that she was exceptionally cute. If you can't bite it, don't bite it anymore. In the future, I will nurture a pet to play with you. Wang Xian pinched her little feet and said, I want to eat, I want to eat. Wah, I want to eat. However, upon hearing Wang Xian's words, Hua glared at her feet and shouted loudly. As she shouted, she gritted her teeth. Seeing that she couldn't move her teeth, tears flowed out of her eyes. Little beauty, don't be so naughty. This is a pet egg of a demigod. You can't eat it. The girl who spoke at the beginning said to Hua with a smile on her face. However, her expression soon turned stiff. Everyone around her widened their eyes and looked at her in disbelief. Okay, if you want to eat, I'll give it to you. The young man below the girl said helplessly. He reached out his hand to take the pet egg and directly cut a hole in it. Instantly, the liquid similar to an egg was revealed, but the liquid was bright green. A strong life force spread out in the surroundings. Take it and drink. The young man handed the pet egg to the girl again. I don't want to drink, I want to eat, the little girl said as she took the pet egg and poured it into her little mouth. Some liquid flowed onto her little face. It's not good, it's not good. After taking a sip, the little girl shouted with a bitter face and kept kicking her legs. Little grandaunt, you're really hard to please. Let me roast you and give you a taste. Under everyone's gaze, the young man moved his palm and a wisp of flame wrapped around the pet egg. Soon, a tempting fragrance came from the pet egg. At this moment, everyone was stunned. A demigod tier 1 pet egg, a demigod tier 1 pet egg that made people crazy, was roasted just like that. And it was roasted. Just because his daughter said that she wanted the pet egg, the mysterious rich young man directly bought it. When everyone thought that the rich god wanted to bring this demigod level 1 pet to accompany his daughter to grow up together. In the end, the little girl wanted to eat the pet egg. Then, to everyone's surprise, the rich god directly broke the pet egg. The little girl picked it up and drank it. After it didn't taste good, she now roasted it. This. A fragrance came over, and everyone stared blankly. It smells so good. You and elder sister can split it in half. Alright, let's go. The father and daughter's conversation rang out once more, and soon after, they saw the young man hand over an interspatial ring to the old man from the godpet group before turning around and leaving. Here. The girl's cheerful voice rang out, and she hugged the boiled pet egg with both hands, happily eating it. The group's departure left everyone with an indifferent back view. Gulp. This. Oh my god, I ate it. The demigod-level pet egg was eaten directly. Am I hallucinating? The demigod-level pet egg, the pet egg that caused everyone to go crazy, was actually eaten by someone. Oh my god. Is this a motherfucker who dotes on his daughter? To buy a demigod-level pet egg and eat it, 300 million high-grade spirit stones? Even the powerhouses of the Lingxiao treasured palace can't do that. When everyone saw them leave, the surroundings instantly erupted into an uproar. They all widened their eyes and let out exclamations one after another. This was a pet egg that caused even large corporations to compete for it, buying it just to give it to their daughter to eat. This was too unbelievable. If they hadn't seen it with their own eyes, they definitely wouldn't believe that there would be such a person in the world. What kind of tycoon could do such a thing? They stared blankly at their father who was riding on a peeing neck until he disappeared. Below them, Jin Yue's body was trembling slightly. In terms of wealth, his spirit vein group could definitely be ranked in the top 50 in the entire East, not to mention the top 20. He was the great young master of the spirit vein group. He had tried his best to buy the pet egg, but it had been bought by another person and given to his daughter to eat. What kind of fucking rich second generation am I? The food that girl ate could make me work hard for a long time. Jin Yue's expression changed drastically. With a dark expression, he immediately entered the supercar and left. God-level tycoon, a real god-level tycoon. A young man took out 300 million upper-grade spirit stones with a wave of his hand and bought a demigod-level first-grade pet egg for his daughter to eat. This incident was destined to cause a huge sensation. It was bound to cause everyone to be dumbstruck. The mysterious tycoon, Wang Xian and the rest flew towards the direction of Jiang City. Yarrow Nu, who was following by the side, also followed behind with a face full of shock. Even though she had witnessed the horror of this group of people, she was still extremely shocked when she saw them casually buying a pet egg to eat with 300 million upper-grade spirit stone. Who are they? Oh right, I think that swordsman once said 2 words, Dragon Palace. Chapter 1837. 1837. The former king of 1837, the king of Jiang City. Dragon Palace. Yarrow Nu, who was following Wang Xian and the rest, was thinking about the name Dragon Palace. However, as she was only in her 20s, she didn't remember the name Dragon Palace. She didn't know what this name meant in the past. Many of the younger generation on Earth didn't know the names Dragon Palace and Dragon King. After all, the changes of this era were too fast. Dragon King, the river city is in front of us. However, the river city has become much bigger. 6 years ago, an ancient land appeared in the river city. This is a dilapidated ancient land. It is not very complete, and there are not many treasures in it. It is not valued by other forces. However, at that time, a woman from a small family in the Song family of the river city obtained an opportunity in the ancient land. Now, that woman from the Song family has the strength of a 7th-level void interpretation. Now, the Song family is the most respected in the entire Jiang city. The Song family group is also a somewhat famous group. The chairman, Song Hanyu, is also that lady. She is also somewhat famous in the same generation. After entering the area of Jiang City, the two Draconids introduced Wang Xian respectfully. "Oh, what about Mo Qinglong's current strength?" Upon hearing the words of the two Draconids, Wang Xian was slightly surprised. Dragon King, the leader's current strength is at level 5 of the see-through realm. Our Dragon Gate has offended many people in the past. After the gods descended, the leader ordered us to keep a low profile to prevent others from taking revenge on us. Nowadays, opportunities are far greater than our previous strength. If a child can obtain a huge opportunity, he can also become a see-through realm powerhouse very quickly, the two Draconids said with a slightly bitter tone. The once invincible Dragon Gate had completely lost its former might after the Earth's metamorphosis. Even if they were talking about the Dragon Gate now, some of the older generation would have to think about it for a while. How are the disciples of the Dragon Gate now? Wang Xian continued to ask. Overall, they are not bad. After all, Dragon King, you have great prestige in Jiang City. Even after the Song family rose to prominence, they are good to the Dragon Gate, the Qin family, the Shui family, the Wei family, the Zhong family, the Guan family, and the Lan family. The two Draconids replied. The Guan family and the Lan family were the family of Guan Shuqing and Lan Qingyu. As for the Wei family and the Zhong family, they were the family of his hometown, Uncle Zhong. The Wei family was the family that Sister Li had married into. That's good. Wang Xian nodded. No matter how the earth changed, as long as his family and old friends were around, it was enough. Since he was back, he could protect them. Do you still have the old seaside villa? Let's find a place. Wang Xian said to them directly. Dragon King, the changes in your old villa are gone. Let's go to the leader, the two Draconids said as they led them along. The sea had changed. The old river city had already undergone huge changes. Near the seaside, an ancient land appeared. The ancient land had an area of about 100 kilometers. Because it was a dilapidated ancient land, there were very few arrays inside. There were no demonic beasts or anything like that. Therefore, this ancient land became the most prosperous place. In the center of the ancient land, a tall building stood up. On it were the words Song Clan Group. Currently, the Song Clan Group was the most powerful one in the vicinity of Jiang City. After the gods descended, those glorious clans that had once had a relationship with the Dragon King retreated into Jiang City. Now, they were on their way to decline. Even Jiang City was ruled by the Song family group. In just a dozen years, the changes were too great. Dragon King, over here. The two Draconids landed on the ground. Jiang City was more beautiful than before, with towering trees and luxuriant foliage. There was less concrete in the big city, and more nature. With the recovery of spiritual essence, the whole city was dozens of times more beautiful than before. There's a small villa in front where the leader lives. After the Dragon Gate is disbanded, we will gather once every few months. The two of them smiled as they spoke. Compared to the cold disciples of the Dragon Gate in the past, they were much more humane. Let's go in. Wang Xian looked at the villa in front of him. It was located beside a river and was considered luxurious. Life was pretty good. He swept his gaze and saw 4 people inside the villa. One was a young man and the other was a middle-aged man. The middle-aged man and the old man were Mo Qinglong and his disciple, Mo Yuan. Mo Qinglong and Mo Yuan were chatting in the room. When Wang Xian stepped into the door of the villa, their figures froze instantly. Their eyes were filled with excitement. "Oh! What's wrong, Elder Mo? Look, about taking Xiaozhi as a disciple?" The elder sitting opposite Mo Qinglong was slightly stunned. He looked at the 2 of them with a puzzled expression and pointed at the young man standing beside him. The young man had a proud expression on his face. He held a sharp sword in his hand and exuded a lazy aura. Hua! However, just as the old man finished speaking, Mo Qinglong and Mo Shuo stood up excitedly. They did not walk out excitedly. "Oh!" Seeing the 2 of them walk out directly, the old man in the room was slightly stunned. He slowly frowned. "Oh! Grandfather, they are not giving face to our Song family. I took him as my master because I gave him face. Our Song family has treated them well. If sister didn't say that she wanted to find me a powerhouse from the Lingxiao treasured palace as my master, I wouldn't have." "All right, Xiaozhi, don't be rude. In the future, be more respectful in front of Elder Mo." As the youth spoke, the elder beside him interrupted the youth's words. Seeing that Mo Qinglong and his disciple had lost their composure and were walking out, the elder hesitated for a moment before following behind them. He was very curious about who could make them lose their composure like this. After all, they used to be that man's subordinates. Even if he died, he left an indelible impression on many of the older generation in River City. He was once the king of River City. In addition, Mo Qinglong and the others had such powerful strength without any opportunities, so he still had a trace of respect in his heart. TSK. Seeing his grandfather follow him out, the youth curled his lips in disdain and walked out. He's here, our king is finally here." Mo Qinglong and Mo Shuo walked out, mumbling. After walking around a garden, he immediately saw a familiar figure. Although their Dragon King's form was a little strange, with a girl in his arms and a girl riding on his neck. But this was their king. "Greetings, Dragon King. Greetings, Dragon King." The 2 of them sped up and kneeled in front of them, shouting excitedly, "Greetings, Dragon King." At the back, the old man who had followed them out of the garden heard the words of Mo Qinglong and Mo Shuo, and his body shook violently. He slightly widened his eyes and looked at the young man walking in the middle. When he saw that face, his head roared. It was really the Dragon King, the once invincible Dragon King. Chapter 1838. 1838. The former king of 1838, the king of Jiang City. The Dragon King was still alive. The Dragon King was still alive. Back when the sea god destroyed the Dragon Palace with one move, the Dragon King was still alive. The old man stood there, staring at that figure with shock. Even after more than 10 years, that figure's face didn't change at all. The former king of Jiang City, the king who made all the aristocratic families submit to him. He vaguely remembered that back then, the Song family, and the him at that time, all needed to look up to this figure. Who? The old man's breathing was slightly hurried. Hey! What are Elder Mo and the others doing? Why are they kneeling down to that young man? At this moment, the young man's voice sounded beside him. "That's the Dragon King, the former king of Jiang City." The old man sighed slightly, his eyes shining. "What Dragon King? What king of Jiang City?" "Grandfather, our Song group is the king of Jiang City now." The young master looked at his grandfather and said directly with some doubt. His gaze swept over the young man in front of him. A girl was riding on his neck. The former king? Bullshit. When the old man heard his grandson's words, his expression changed slightly. He looked hesitant. "Get up." At the front, Wang Xian looked at Mo Qinglong and Mo Yuan. A faint smile appeared on his face. "Dragon King, you're finally back." Mo Qinglong stood up with tears streaming down his face. "You're already so old. Why are you still crying?" Wang Xian smiled and reached out to carry the flower on his head down. No, Daddy. The little one was still reluctant and struggled. All right. Let this big sister carry you for a while. Wang Xian pinched her face and gestured to the veiled lady. Yes, sir. Flower, come and let this big sister carry you. The lady was a little nervous and quickly reached out her hand to hug Huara. No, Daddy, wa. The little one held tightly onto Wang Xian's arm, unwilling to leave her embrace. When Xia saw this, she also held her tightly. You two little ones, you can't let me hug you all the time, Wang Xian said to them helplessly. Daddy smells good. Cai, who had always been quiet and ladylike, said in a tender voice. Smells good. Wang Xian was slightly taken aback. Following that, he had a slight understanding in his heart. The two little brats were obviously of the wood attribute. He had the ancestral tree in his body, which had a fatal attraction to them. This was also one of the reasons why the two little brats had called her father the moment they woke up. Wang Xian's heart skipped a beat. The god-striking branch appeared in his hand. An emerald green light flashed past. Grab it, Wang Xian said to the two little ones. Buzz. When the god-striking branch appeared, the two stargrass above the little ones' heads trembled visibly. Daddy hug. The two little ones clearly felt a familiar aura from the god-striking branch. They immediately stretched out their hands to grab it. However, Cai was still looking at Wang Xian with her watery eyes. Let me give you a hug first. Wang Xian gestured to Yarrow Nu, who immediately spread out her arms to hug him. Although the two little guys were very reluctant, they still reluctantly left Wang Xian's embrace. Phew. He heaved a sigh of relief and looked at Mo Qinglong and the rest. Let's go, let's enter the house. It's the Dragon King. Dragon King, are these two little princesses? Mo Qinglong stood up excitedly and asked the two little fellows. You can say that. Wang Xian nodded his head. At the front, the old man was a little nervous when he saw the Dragon King walking over. Dragon King. After hesitating for a moment, the old man cupped his hands and shouted. This made the young master at the side look at his grandfather in astonishment. Grandfather, he. The young man was about to say something when he was glared at by the old man. He immediately shut his mouth. This made the young master even more displeased. Who was this young man to make his grandfather so reserved? In the entire Jiang city, who would dare to make his grandfather behave like this? Dragon King, this is Elder Song from the Song Group. He takes great care of us. Mo Qinglong immediately introduced him to Wang Xian. Oh, I heard from Mo 15 and the rest. Let's go in. Wang Xian looked at Elder Song, nodded his head, and walked straight in. So cocky. When the young man saw how Wang Xian behaved, he frowned and a look of displeasure flashed across his eyes. Don't speak. Elder Song whispered to him and followed behind him hesitantly. He didn't know if the current Dragon King was still the former Dragon King. After all, the current strength of the Song family wasn't weak. They were publicly acknowledged as the overlord of Jiang City. But at least on the surface, Elder Song still respected the Dragon King. Just by relying on the strength of the former Dragon Gate, it was still worthy of respect. The group walked into the villa. Wang Xian sat on the sofa in the middle. He looked at Yarrow Nu and ordered her to hug Huara and Xia to sit at the side. The young man beside Elder Song frowned slightly when he saw Wang Xian walking in and sitting on the sofa in the middle. The displeasure on his face was even more obvious. Azure Dragon, I'm back this time. I won't be leaving for the time being. Find me a house by the sea. Also, Wang Xian sat down and spoke to Mo Azure Dragon and the rest who were standing in front of him without sitting down. Senior Mo, my grandfather wants me to acknowledge you as my master. What do you think about this, Senior Mo? If you agree, our Song family will hold a ceremony to acknowledge you as our master another day. If you don't agree, don't waste our time here. I, Song Shanji, don't really care. At this moment, a voice interrupted Wang Xian and spoke directly to Mo Qinglong. Xiaoji, stop talking. Elder Song frowned slightly and shouted when he saw his grandson talking impatiently. However, he didn't blame him too much. The Dragon King was only the former Wang Xian. Now, the Song family was. Moreover, the Dragon King who was carrying the two little kids felt that he was no longer as sharp and domineering as before. That imposing manner that made people submit to him was gone. He had a feeling that even if the Dragon King was still alive, he would still fall. Grandpa, can our Song family still not speak in Jiang City? I don't know who the Dragon King is, nor do I know who the former king of Jiang City was. In the current Jiang City, our Song family is the king. Song Shanji looked at Wang Xian with contempt. He raised his head slightly and had an arrogant expression on his face. In Jiang City, he, Song Shanji, had the right and ability to say such words. Kid, I don't care who you are. In the future, when you speak to my grandfather and me, you'd better be more respectful. Don't you know whose territory this is? He stood and looked down at Wang Xian who was sitting there. He extended his finger and pointed at him. He. Wang Xian looked down at the young man who was pointing at him. A smile appeared on his face. Mo Qinglong and Mo Shuo, who were at the side, had a slight change in their expressions. A murderous aura instantly burst out from their bodies. The former king, the current king? Wang Xian waved his hand and asked Mo Qinglong and the rest to withdraw their aura. On account of your Song family's meritorious service, on account of your ignorance, I'll spare your life. Chapter 1839. 1839 The former king of 1839, the king of Jiang City. On account of our Song family's meritorious service, on account of my ignorance, please spare my life. Ha ha ha, arrogant, really arrogant. Spare my life. In the entire Jiang City, with my sister around, who would dare to touch me, Song Shanji? Kid, you are really arrogant. Do you really think you are the king? Ha ha ha. When Song Shanji heard Wang Xian's words, he couldn't help but burst into laughter. The funniest sentence he heard today was to spare his life. Her sister was someone who had dealings with the elite disciples of the Lingxiao Treasure Palace. Now, what bullshit Dragon King dared to say that he would spare his life? Elder Song, who was standing at the side, immediately frowned when he heard his grandson's words. Dragon King, this little grandson of mine is young and ignorant. Elder Song immediately said apologetically. But before he could finish speaking, before the smile on Song Shanji's face disappeared, Elder Song, as well as Song Shanji's grandfather and grandson, sensed that something was wrong with the atmosphere. A vast and mighty pressure that even made him tremble came over. Elder Song's expression changed drastically, and he hurriedly looked at the Dragon King. He saw the Dragon King looking at the two of them calmly. At this moment, the sound of someone vomiting blood could be heard from the side. He quickly turned his head to look at his grandson. You, this. At this moment, Song Shanji's face was extremely pale. There was not a trace of blood on his face. He was spitting out blood and was filled with fear. He stared at Wang Xian and his eyes were filled with astonishment. Dragon King, please. Elder Song hurriedly stood in front of his grandson. Bang! At this moment, Song Shanji fell heavily to the ground. No, Dragon King, you actually killed my grandson. Elder Song saw his grandson lying on the ground and roared angrily. As soon as he finished speaking, he felt an incomparably terrifying force pressing down on his body. He couldn't help but spit out a mouthful of blood. A powerless, insignificant, and ant-like feeling surged into his mind. This caused Elder Song's face to be filled with astonishment. Although he wasn't as strong as his granddaughter, he was still the second strongest member of the Song family. He was at the third level of the Void Interpretation Realm, which was ranked in the top 10 in Jiang City. In front of the Dragon King, he felt like he was an ant. Even if he met a demigod expert from the Lingxiao Treasured Palace, the divine son he met did not have such a terrifying aura. Vast and invincible. He collapsed on the ground, a look of despair on his face. The Dragon King, who had disappeared for more than 10 years, was actually so terrifying. The former king had returned. Huff, huff, huff. Just when he thought he was going to die, the pressure on his body disappeared instantly. This made the despairing boss Song gasp for breath. Your grandson isn't dead. Don't worry. You should understand my actions. At this moment, the voice of the Dragon King rang in his ears. Old Song's face showed that he had survived a disaster. Thank you, Dragon King. Thank you, Dragon King. He immediately knelt on the ground and kowtowed to Wang Xian. Just now, he was still wondering if the Dragon King was still the same Dragon King as before. However, now, he had a feeling that the current Dragon King was even more terrifying than before. He had a feeling about the vast pressure and the feeling of being an ant. He was facing a high and mighty god. That's right, a god. He heaved a heavy sigh of relief when he thought of the Dragon King's past behavior. All the elders in Jiang City knew the Dragon King's temper. If you don't provoke me, I won't provoke you. If you owe me a favor, I will naturally repay you with all my strength. Elder Song was somewhat glad at this moment. He was glad that the Song family treated the Dragon King's relatives and friends better. Otherwise, he had no doubt that the entire Song family would be directly destroyed. After feeling the Dragon King's strength, he had no doubt. He calmed his heart and felt the life force of his grandson. He heaved a sigh of relief. Get up. I just came back. There are many things that I don't know. Your Song family has contributed greatly. I will reward you. Wang Xian said directly to Elder Song. It's the Dragon King. It's the Dragon King. Xiaoji is young and insensible. I will definitely teach him a good lesson in the future, Sendai said hurriedly. He didn't dare to stand up. All right, I'll give you a little reward first. You may leave now. Wang Xian waved his hand at them. In an instant, Elder Song felt the scene around him change. When he looked around again, he realized that he had already stood up and appeared outside the villa. Hiss. Elder Song couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air. Teleportation. This was something that only demigods could do. However, with the strength of a demigod, they could only teleport together with others. However, now, with a casual wave of his hand, he couldn't feel any fluctuations and directly appeared outside. How could a demigod be able to do this kind of spatial transformation with a wave of his hand? The Dragon King is here, the Dragon King is here, your king is here. Elder Song muttered. Boom. All of a sudden, Elder Song felt a majestic energy churning in his body. He widened his eyes, filled with shock and disbelief. Roar. An awe-inspiring roar came from his body, and the strength he sensed was rapidly increasing. 4th level of the Profound Void Martial Stage, 5th level of the Profound Void Martial Stage, 6th level of the Profound Void Martial Stage. He didn't stop until he reached the peak of the Profound Void Martial Stage. Is this the reward that the Dragon King gave me first? Elder Song's body trembled and his face was flushed red. With a wave of his hand, he reached the peak of the Profound Void Martial Stage. This was too terrifying. All of a sudden, he slowly raised his head and looked at the incomparably vast Ling Xiao Palace in the sky. His eyes sparkled. Who? Elder Song took a deep breath and slowly picked up his grandson who was standing next to him. He looked at the location of the villa. Plop. Elder Song directly knelt on the ground and kowtowed respectfully. Thank you for the reward, Dragon King. He bowed sincerely and slowly stood up. Should we inform the others of the Dragon King's return? No. Without the Dragon King's order, we must not tell anyone. The Dragon King is even more terrifying than before. Elder Song muttered to himself. He felt as if he was worshipping a god. He had a feeling that the current Dragon King was comparable to the god in the sky, who was high up in the palace. This feeling was very strong. I, Song Qingsha, have made the best choice in my life. Song Qingsha, who was full of smiles, walked towards the Song group in a good mood. Ya. In the room of the villa, Elder Song and Song Shanji were sent out by Wang Xian with a wave of his hand. Huara, who did not sense the imposing aura, wanted to crawl towards Wang Xian mischievously. Azure Dragon, call the disciples of the Dragon Gate over for a gathering. Wang Xian coiled Huara's head and said to Mo Qinglong. It's the Dragon King, Dragon King. There are already disciples of the Dragon Gate getting married and having children, Mo Qinglong said with a smile. That's good. Since they are safe and sound, let them be safe and sound in the future. Wang Xian nodded his head. He had no plans to rebuild the Dragon Gate. With the Dragon Palace around, there was no need for the Dragon Gate to exist. Chapter 1840. 1840. In the dusty history of 1840. The disciples of the Dragon Gate once fought for him. Now that he was strong, he naturally had to help his former subordinates. Moreover, helping his former subordinates was a piece of cake for him. Mo Yuan walked out to gather the disciples of the Dragon Gate. Mo Qinglong stood by the side and kept talking to Wang Xian about everything that had happened in the past few years, including the changes on Earth, including some of Wang Xian's family and friend. Sister Li, who got married 14 to 15 years ago, now had a child who was already 13 to 14 years old. Wang Xian's only in-name disciple was taken in as a disciple of the Ling Xiao treasured palace when it had just descended. The former sect Master Ling of the Yellow Heaven Immortal sect and the rest were also taken in as disciples of the Ling Xiao treasured palace. As Mo Qinglong spoke, he brewed a cup of tea for Wang Xian. Wang Xian sat there quietly and listened. Meanwhile, Yarrow Nu sat quietly at the side and watched Hua Caier. However, she was extremely shocked. What shocked her was not the other things, but the emerald green branch that Hua Caier was holding. When her hand touched the branch, a vast amount of wood vitality and sharpness was transmitted into her body. She was even certain that as long as she sat cross-legged and cultivated, she would be able to achieve a breakthrough immediately by relying on this branch. If she held on to this branch for a long time, her strength would reach a terrifying level. A subordinate can kill a divine son with a casual blow, kill a demigod expert, and casually buy a demigod-level pet egg for his daughter to eat. An incomparably vast pressure, able to send a person out with a casual wave of his hand. What kind of existence is he? Dragon Palace? Dragon King? Yarrow Nuan's heart was racing when she heard their words. She couldn't think of the names Dragon Palace and Dragon King even if she racked her brain. She really wanted to use her phone to check, but she didn't dare to do so while sitting here. The mysterious Dragon King in front of her made her feel extremely powerful. Grandpa, what happened to Xiaoji? Didn't you take him to Master Mo? At the same time, in the center of the ancient land was the Song Corporation. Next to the Song Corporation's building, in an extremely luxurious villa. When Elder Song carried his grandson into the villa, a woman walked over. When she saw her grandfather and brother, she was slightly stunned and quickly walked over. It's okay, this kid needs discipline. Elder Song shook his head. He had already checked his grandson's injuries and found that he did not sustain any injuries. However, he might be unconscious for a day or two. Grandfather, who injured Xiaoji? Elder Mo? Chen-ph, this is too disrespectful to me, Song Hanyu. This time, if Brother Feiyu did not invite the seniors of the Ling Xiao treasured palace, how could he let Xiaoji take him as his master? Song Hanyu's face was frosty as she spoke, her body emitting the aura of a strong woman. All right Hanyu, this matter is over. Elder Song shook his head and said in a deep voice. Oh, it's Grandpa. Song Hanyu saw that her grandfather's face was solemn, and she also restrained her aura. Towards her grandfather, even if her strength was now stronger than her grandfather's, her heart was still filled with respect and fear. Tomorrow, I'll bring you to visit someone. Elder Song looked at his granddaughter, a tall and slim beauty with a good figure and a first-class face. He suddenly had an idea and said, "Visit someone?" Song Hanyu was slightly surprised, but then she frowned. "Grandfather, I'm afraid it won't be possible for the next 2 days. Brother Han Feiyu and a few other powerful disciples of the Ling Xiao treasured palace are coming over. I'm going to entertain them for the next few days, so I can't leave. Grandpa, I'm going out to welcome them now. You can push the disciples from the Ling Xiao treasured palace away tomorrow. Come with me to visit someone first." "It's settled then." Elder Song pondered for a moment and said in a strong voice as he walked into the villa. "Grandpa." Song Hanyu opened her mouth slightly and frowned. She found that her grandpa was a little strange today. In the past, he always talked to her with a tone of discussion. Why was he like this today? However, before she could think too much about it, her phone rang. She looked at the name on it and immediately smiled. She quickly walked out. "Master, Master." When Elder Song entered the villa, the servants saw that he was holding Song Shanji and quickly came up to him. "Yes, just put Xiaoji in the room." Elder Song was thinking about some problems expressionlessly in his mind. He walked to the chair in the room and sat down. According to our report, heaven and earth are crying, the ocean is mutating, and the downpour is falling without warning. It seems that a god has fallen. According to our reporter from the Myth Channel, we have confirmed a shocking news. The Spirit Sea Palace has disappeared at the bottom of the ocean. Some disciples of the Spirit Sea Palace are kneeling in the sky above the ocean in grief and indignation. Now, it is basically confirmed that the sea god has fallen. A god has fallen. This is. A message suddenly appeared on the TV that was turned on in front of him. Elder Song suddenly raised his head and stared at the report on the TV. His expression changed slightly. He immediately took out his phone and opened the forum. The world is shaking. The sea god has been confirmed dead, and the sea god palace has disappeared. The death of a god, the death of the sea god, and the wailing of heaven and earth. Which god killed him? According to speculation, the death of the sea god should not be the work of the other four major forces. Could it be that Earth has given birth to an expert who can kill a god? Elder Song read the posts one by one, and after opening them, his expression changed. What a shock! A godly tycoon has appeared at the east gate of the Jade Lake ancient land. He bought a demigod-level pet egg for his daughter with 300 million high-grade spirit stones. A godly tycoon has appeared out of nowhere. Who exactly is this expert? My daughter said that she wanted a demigod-level pet egg, so she bought it casually. My daughter said that she wanted to eat it, so she cooked it directly with a photo attach. After the death of the sea god, it is suspected that the son of God of the Lingxiao treasure hall has fallen. The mystery of the death of the peerless heaven's favorite, the 9 heavens. Among the countless posts about the death of the sea god, there were 2 more topics that were more eye-catching. Elder Song hesitated for a moment and opened it to take a casual look. However, when he saw the post of the god tycoon appearing out of nowhere, he took a deep breath after looking at the pictures inside. Although the pictures only had the back and only the back, he could be 100% sure that it was the Dragon King and his group. The sea god fell as soon as the Dragon King appeared. He bought a demigod pet for his daughter to eat with a wave of his hand, and the divine son who died in the Jade Lake ancient land. Was everything a coincidence, or? Elder Song pursed his lips and felt his current strength again. His face revealed an excited expression. His body trembled slightly, and he leaned on the chair and exhaled heavily. In his mind, the dust-laden history of the Dragon King was revealed one scene after another, and each scene was clearly replayed. Chapter 1841. 1841 in 1841's long history. Daddy hug, daddy hug. On the top floor of Mo Qinglong's villa, 2 little girls were running towards Wang Xian barefooted. Yarrow Nu, who was following closely behind them, was holding onto the god-striking twigs in her hand. All right, you're done bathing, right? Go to your rooms and sleep. Call me if you need anything. Wang Xian looked at the 2 little ones who had just showered. He stroked their heads and said to them, "No, daddy hug. Daddy hug." The 2 little ones stretched out their arms reluctantly and looked at him with their big watery eyes. All right, all right. Facing his 2 adorable daughters, Wang Xian's heart was extremely tender. He held them in his arms with one hand and the other. Are you hungry? Do you want to eat something? Wang Xian sat on the chair and placed them on his lap. When he was done talking to Mo Qinglong, he had brought over quite a lot of food. Unfortunately, the 2 little fellows didn't eat any of it. Eat delicious food. Hua clapped her hands and said as she stomped her feet. All right. I'll show you what's here to eat. Wang Xian took out his interspatial ring and took a look. He had some fruits at the insightful void tier and demigod tier. Other than these, there were also some meat. The meat of the dragons from the supernatural continent was all at the demigod tier and was extremely precious. Eating these foods would bring great benefits to ordinary people. Other than that, he had also obtained a lot of resources and treasures from the divine sea palace. The most precious thing was the heaven's marrow water. It was a very viscous liquid that contained a huge amount of energy. To water elemental cultivators, it was a priceless treasure. This heaven marrow water weighed more than 10 kilograms and was considered a treasure of the godly state. There were also many other treasures, such as spiritual herbs and fruits. All of you sit here first. Wang Xian poured some heaven marrow water for each of them and roasted a piece of dragon meat. Sir, I'll feed the little princess and the rest. Yarrow Nu, who was standing at the side, walked over and asked respectfully. All right. You feed the flowers. I'll feed Say. Wang Xian nodded and gave her the food. I want daddy feed, I want daddy feed. Hua shouted. All right. Wang Xian smiled. There were 2 little girls. One was extremely mischievous while the other was extremely ladylike. The difference in the personalities of these 2 sisters was too huge. Yarrow Nu held the food and felt the powerful energy fluctuation from it. Her heart was shocked again. Especially the liquid that was emitting a divine light in the cup. She couldn't help but swallow a mouthful of saliva. After feeding the 2 little guys, they were soon sleepy. Wang Xian and Yarrow Nu placed them on the bed. You take care of them in the room. You can use them to cultivate when you have nothing to do. Wang Xian looked at Yarrow Nu, who was standing at the side, and said to her. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Yarrow Nu hurriedly called out respectfully. Her eyes were filled with excitement. She didn't expect that the proud daughter of heaven, who was high and mighty, would become like a maid in just one day. Okay. Wang Xian nodded his head and walked out. He wasn't worried that the 2 little girls would be in danger. There were 2 stargrass protecting their heads. Without the help of the gods, no one could hurt them. Wang Xian went to the living room and opened the computer on the table. The current computer was completely different from the previous one. It was even more high-tech. He opened the forum that Yarrow Nu had told him about today and browsed through the information on it. When he saw the posts on the forum one by one, a faint smile appeared on his face. In the entire forum, 70% of the posts were about the fall of the sea god, 15% were about the mysterious tycoon, and 15% were about the fall of the son of God. Every post was related to him. He skimmed through the new posts and browsed through the old ones with great interest. It felt like he was reading a novel in the past. While Wang Xian was reading the posts on the forum, Yarrow Nu did not cultivate immediately in the room inside. Even though she had the powerful Zun Shun by her side. At this moment, she took out her phone and searched for a message with a curious expression. Dragon Palace, Dragon King, 2 keywords. When the messages appeared one by one, a surprised expression appeared on her face. Later, a shocked expression slowly appeared on her face. Are these real or fake? Could it be that the memories of some of the people above are real? Her eyes widened slightly, and her eyes were filled with shock. The Earth's metamorphosis, the computer once ushered in a huge revolution, and the computers of the past were abandoned. The computers of today all had information from the recent years. However, there were still some people who had entered the information in the encyclopedia. Among them, there was information about the Dragon Palace and the Dragon King. Some people over the age of 30 or 40 should understand what the word Dragon King means. I finally know why I feel that this name is somewhat familiar. So, the Dragon King of the Dragon Palace, who has been around for more than a decade, is the overlord of Earth, an invincible existence. Yarrow Nu muttered to herself. Looking at the deeds of the Dragon King, her face was filled with shock and awe. Let's follow him for the time being. Yarrow Nu gave up on the last thought of escaping. She looked at the flowers on the bed with envy. Following that, her eyes flickered as she stared at the god-beating branches in front of her. A night passed very quickly. Wang Xian spent the entire night reading all kinds of information and didn't sleep. However, early in the morning, many excited figures entered the villa. There were a total of 49 draconids, including the Devil Abyss and the demonic Azure Dragon. Initially, there were 51 draconids, including the demonic Azure Dragon. 2 of them died in the middle. Greetings, Dragon King. When Wang Xian arrived at the villa, the 49 draconids immediately knelt on the ground and shouted loudly. Get up! Wang Xian swept his gaze across them and waved his hand with a smile on his face. A powerful force made them stand up immediately. He sat on the sofa at the side and looked at all the faces. Over the past 10 years, some of them were fathers with a trace of benevolence and vicissitudes on their faces. The strength of the Draconids was not very strong. The only ones at the see-through level were the demonic Azure Dragon and the demonic Abyss. The rest of the Draconids' disciples were mostly at the level of level 7 to the peak of transcendence. If they were placed on Earth, they would still be considered strong. Only those who had obtained the opportunity were slightly stronger than them. Back then, I used my bloodline to make all of you submit to me. The fact that all of you possess the divine dragon bloodline is unchangeable. However, the strength of my bloodline was too weak back then. It was too weak. This time, I will reward all of you again. As Wang Xian spoke, he waved his arm. Drops of divine dragon bloodline that contained powerful energy flew towards them. At that time, the power of his bloodline was too weak. If the group of Draconids were to absorb his bloodline again, their strength would receive a huge boost. This could be considered as the reward that Wang Xian had given the group of Draconids for the past 10 years. It would also give them a place to stand. Chapter 1842. 1842. Whose era does this belong to? Thank you, Dragon King. The 49 Draconids knelt respectfully in the living room of the villa. Their faces were filled with excitement. Drops of dazzling divine dragon's blood floated in front of them. With Wang Xian's current ability to kill and ignite 3 wisps of divine fire, the power of his bloodline was extremely huge. Moreover, just now, he injected drops of heaven's marrow water and some demigod-level elixirs into his bloodline. This drop of blood contained a power comparable to that of a demigod. Buzz. The 49 Draconids knelt on the ground. It was just like how Wang Xian had injected his bloodline into them more than 10 years ago. They were slowly absorbing it. Qitian, inject your cultivation experience regarding the darkness attribute into their mind. Wang Xian brewed a cup of tea and ordered Ao Qitian, who was beside him. It's the Dragon King. Ao Qitian nodded. With a thought, 49 strands of hair fell on their bodies and fused into one with them. Ao Qitian's hair was not ordinary hair. No matter what, Ao Qitian was a god who could kill a wisp of divine fire. His hair and his understanding of the darkness attribute were comparable to ordinary gods. There were no reserved gifts. Only gods would do this to their own children. Even if it was to their disciples, they might not be unreserved. Boom, boom, boom. When the group of Draconids absorbed the divine dragon's blood and Ao Qitian's hair, waves of powerful aura emanated from their bodies. The strength of the extraordinary Draconids shook violently. They had reached the insightful void stage directly and were improving at a terrifying speed. Wang Xian sensed the strength of the Draconids and stood up. He walked to the kitchen. He took out the dragon meat and fried it briefly. Then, he started to taste it casually. Phew. An hour later, the demonic Azure Dragon was the first to open his eyes. His eyes were filled with excitement. Thank you, Dragon King. He knelt on the ground respectfully and shouted at Wang Xian. Wang Xian waved his hand and continued to play with his phone. Soon, the Draconids woke up one by one. Their bodies were filled with powerful energy. The weakest of them had reached the peak of the see-through void stage, while the demonic Azure Dragon Abyss had reached the demigod stage. Furthermore, they had not completely absorbed the energy. Once they had done so, they would all be able to reach the first level of the demigod stage. The group of Draconids revealed an excited look on their faces. Among the heaven's chosen divine sons, 90% of them were not as strong as them. The only ones who could match up to them were the group of powerhouses who had descended from the Lingxiao treasured palace. How many of our brothers are already married and have children? Wang Xian looked at the group of happy Draconids and asked with a smile on his face. Dragon King, your subordinate is married and has a boy. Dragon King, your subordinate is also married and has a 7-year-old girl. Dragon King. The Dragon Gate disciples reported respectfully. Bring your loved ones and children over for a gathering when you have time. Let me meet them too. Wang Xian said to them. Yes, it's the Dragon King. The group of Draconids nodded with a smile. Grandpa, who did you bring me here to visit? The seniors from the Lingxiao Palace are already here. I wanted to bring them here today. While Wang Xian was conversing with the group of draconids, Elder Song brought his granddaughter to the entrance of the villa. Song Hanyu frowned and spoke to her grandfather impatiently. She looked a little anxious. You'll know when you arrive. You must be respectful later, Elder Song reminded her again and again. Grandfather, who is it? Song Hanyu frowned. Don't speak. Elder Song waved his hand at her before shouting respectfully into the villa. Dragon King, Song Qingsha from the Song family is here to pay his respect. He took a deep breath and shouted into the villa. Song Hanyu, who was standing at the side, widened her eyes when she saw her grandfather's attitude. Huh! Wang Xian, who was in the room, heard the sounds from outside and looked around. Tell them to come back in a few days, Wang Xian said to Mo Qinglong. It's the Dragon King. Mo Qinglong nodded and walked out immediately. Elder Song, the Dragon King is not free at the moment. I will inform you in a few days. Mo Qinglong walked out and said to Elder Song when he saw him. It's fine, it's fine. Any time is fine. Elder Song waved his hand. Oh right, Elder Song, if it's convenient, I'll have to trouble you to help me find a villa. It would be best if it's quiet. Mo Qinglong continued to speak to Elder Song. Sure. Leave such a small matter to me. Elder Mo, please send my regards to the Dragon King. Elder Song patted his chest and promised with a smile. Okay. Mo Qinglong nodded with a smile and walked into the villa. At the door, Elder Song's eyes were filled with excitement. It seemed to be a great honor to be able to serve the Dragon King. However, Song Hanyu, who was standing at the side, frowned, her eyes shining. Grandpa, what's going on inside? Hanyu, you go do your own thing first, I'm going to take care of some things. Song Hanyu was about to speak when Elder Song interrupted her, turned around and left after thinking for a while. Now he was thinking about where to get a luxurious villa for the Dragon King. Grandpa. She opened her mouth slightly and called out. Then she turned around and looked at the villa of the Azure Dragon Demon. She thought for a while and then moved. A purple cloud appeared under her feet and flew toward her own villa. Bang! 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 Bastard! Where's my grandpa? Where's my grandpa? Just as she returned to her room, she heard the sound of something being smashed. Xiaoji. She heard the sound and entered the villa with a frown. When she saw the broken teacup on the ground, she looked at her younger brother. Xiaoji, you're awake. Song Hanyu looked at her younger brother who had just woken up and walked over. Sister, you have to avenge me. The Dragon King dared to attack me yesterday. Sister, you have to avenge me. Seeing his sister come in, Song Shanji immediately shouted aggrievedly. His sister had always loved him very much. It was because of his sister that he had his current status. What's wrong, Xiaoji? Yesterday, Grandpa took you to be his disciple. What exactly happened? Tell me and I will avenge you. Song Hanyu stroked his head with an ice-cold expression and said lovingly. Sister, it's that Dragon King. He was the Dragon King of Jiang City. He was the one who attacked me. It's him. Did Grandpa avenge me yesterday? Song Shanji said angrily. Dragon King? Dragon King? Song Hanyu had just heard this name from her grandfather. Now that her brother reminded her again, she felt a little familiar. In her memory, this name existed. She took out her phone and immediately started searching. When she saw the information on it, her expression changed slightly. Sister, I realized that my strength has actually regressed. It's all because of that Dragon King. Sister, you have to avenge me. Song Shanji's angry voice came from the side. No wonder grandfather acted so strangely. However, the Dragon King has already become history. Grandfather is also a little old and muddle-headed. The sky now belongs to our generation. It belongs to the Lingxiao treasured palace. What Dragon King? It has already become the past. Song Hanyu looked at her younger brother and gently stroked his head. Don't worry, Xiaoji. The current Jiang City is the territory of our Song group. As she spoke, she slowly turned off her phone. The Song group was taken down by her. She would tell everyone whose territory this was. Whose era is this? Chapter 1843. 1843 Draconid Fearless 1. Butler Liu, go and investigate that Dragon King for me. Find out all the information about him and control his every move. In the Song family's villa, Song Hanyu sat on a chair with a dignified expression and asked a middle-aged man in front of her. Miss, where's the master? The middle-aged man stood in front and asked with a slight frown. I will tell him about my grandfather's side. Go. Song Hanyu said expressionlessly. Yes, miss. The middle-aged man nodded and immediately walked out. Sister, he actually dared to attack me. I want to teach him a lesson with my own hand. Song Shanji's eyes flickered with a cold light as she shouted in a low voice. Brother Han Feiyu and the disciples of the Lingxiao Treasured Palace are here. I will bring you to interact with them for the next few days. This time, let Brother Feiyu see if he can find a master for you. In that case, Xiaoji, you can join the Lingxiao Treasure Palace. With your talent, you can make a name for yourself by joining the Lingxiao Treasure Palace. Song Hanyu turned to her brother and said, Sister, is Brother Feiyu here? Let's go find him. Song Shanji's face lit up and he said quickly, I'm afraid I can't do it today. I've already told Brother Feiyu that I don't have time today, so I can't go over again. Let's go tomorrow. Song Hanyu shook her head. Dragon King, you don't know that 29 and 46, these two guys have a boy and a girl, and they even arranged a baby marriage. What era is this? They even arranged a baby marriage. Haha, at the very least, we already have a wife and a child. What about you guys? You don't even have a girlfriend. Only a lunatic would find a girlfriend. How carefree and free you are now. Haha. In Mo Qinglong's villa, the group of Draconids gathered together and chatted happily. Wang Xian also spoke from time to time. This atmosphere made him very happy. You guys are not young anymore. It's time for you to find a girlfriend. Wang Xian smiled and said to a few Draconids who were obviously slacking off. Yes, it's the Dragon King. We are not in a hurry now. A few Draconids immediately said with a smile. Wang Xian had just told them to relax and not be so restrained. Now that they had chatted for more than an hour, the group of Draconids gradually let go. Daddy, Daddy. At this moment, Huara and Seer's voices could be heard from the stairway. Huh! The group of Draconids was slightly stunned. They immediately stood up and looked at the two little girls respectfully. No matter what, identity was identity. It was the first time they met the little princess, and they had to kneel down. Come here, come here. Wang Xian raised his head and looked over. A hint of astonishment flashed across his eyes. Compared to yesterday, the flowers and Caia had obviously changed a lot. If they looked like 1-year-olds yesterday, they looked like 2-year-old children now. The two little ones could already walk quickly. Yarrow Nu, who was at the side, was obviously following behind them in astonishment. She didn't expect that the two children would grow up so quickly in just one night. However, Wang Xian was not too surprised. After all, these two girls could not be treated as ordinary babies. They were the resurrected ancient gods. Daddy. Huara quickened her pace and ran toward Wang Xian with her arms wide open. Greetings, princess. In the hall, the Draconids immediately knelt on the ground respectfully. Why? Huara, who was running over, was slightly shocked. Rise. However, the little girl was stunned for 2 seconds. She waved her hand and looked extremely familiar with her posture. Huara, who was waving her hand, seemed to have forgotten what she was doing. She continued to spread her arms and pounced on Wang Xian. When he saw Huara's actions earlier, Wang Xian's eyes sparkled. Could it be that my memory is slowly recovering? He was deep in thought. Daddy, Daddy, kiss. Huara ran over and immediately kissed Wang Xian's face. Following that, she happily climbed onto Wang Xian's neck. It seemed like she had a soft spot for peeing. Daddy. Seer also trotted over. She spread her arms and begged her cutely for a hug. The two little fellows who looked almost identical looked extremely cute. As he looked at them, some of the things in his mind were thrown to the back of his mind. He carried Seer up dotingly. Are you hungry? What do you want to eat? Wang Xian asked them with a smile. I'm not hungry, I'm not hungry. The little fellows on top shook their legs. I want to go out and play. Go out and play. She sat on Wang Xian's neck and hugged his head as she shook it. All right. I'll bring you out later. Wang Xian looked at the clothes on them. Due to the rapid growth, Yarrow Nu could only condense a green dress with the wood attribute. Although it fit well, it could not be compared to professional clothes. All of you, get up. Wang Xian looked at the Draconids who were still kneeling and waved his hand. It's the Dragon King. The two little princesses are so beautiful. The group of Draconids smiled and nodded. Dragon King, I have some toys for my son. If the little princess doesn't mind, let them play with them. One of the Draconids bowed slightly and took out a few small toys with a smile on his face. Daddy, I want to play with them. The extremely mischievous flower immediately stretched out her small hand and shouted. All right, give them to the little princess. The Draconid smiled and handed over the toy in his hand. The flower took the toy and immediately giggled. Buzz, 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 buzz. At this moment, the Draconid's phone that handed over the toy kept trembling. He frowned slightly and closed it without a trace, but his voice kept ringing. I'm sorry, Dragon King. He bowed and retreated backward. He took out his phone and took a glance. However, his retreating body soon froze. Anger flashed across his body and his expression changed drastically. Wang Xian was slightly stunned when he saw the change in his subordinate's aura. He took a glance and the information on his phone fell into his line of sight. This Draconid had hung up a lot of calls just now. Now, this was the 20th message. What's wrong, Laroju? Mo Yuan walked over and patted him on the shoulder. He, who had already advanced to the demigod realm, could also sense that something was wrong with Mo Ju. Mo Ju, you go and settle the matters at home. I'll bring the two little fellows to the mall to buy some clothes. Bring your family over for a gathering in 2 days. Wang Xian stood up and carried Xia. There were flowers hanging on his head as he smiled and walked out. Yarrow Nu hurriedly followed behind him. Ao Jian and Ao Chitian followed as well. That's right. Wang Xian paused after taking a few steps. Although the Dragon Gate has been disbanded, you are still my subordinates. As my subordinates, the people with the divine dragon bloodline, we will not steal, rob, bully, or humiliate anyone. Similarly, we will not fear anyone. On this earth, no one can bully us. Whoever bullies us will be repaid tenfold. Not even the gods. After saying that, he brought the two little fellows out of the villa's door. Chapter 1844. 1844 Draconids are fearless too. A calm voice reverberated throughout the hall of the villa. In the room, the Draconids trembled slightly when they heard Wang Xian's words. Looking at the back view of the two children who were leaving, all the Draconids had a look of awe on their faces. We shall obey the order of the Dragon King. Mo Qinglong took the lead and bowed to Wang Xian's departing figure. As you command, Dragon King. All the Draconids were moved and grateful. Wang Xian's words represented his approval of them. As people with the divine dragon bloodline, they would not steal, rob, bully, or humiliate others. As the rules set by the Dragon King, they would not violate them in the slightest. Mo Ju, what happened? Mo Qinglong looked at Mo Ju and asked immediately. Leader, it's not a big deal. I can handle it myself. Because of his own matter, Mo Ju was a little embarrassed. Lowering his head, he said, it's just that my kid was sparring with a classmate in the academy and injured him. The other party seemed to have some strength and severely injured my kid and sent him to the hospital. This is still a small matter. He actually heavily injured Larry. Does he really think that we are easy to bully? Whoever makes a move will be repaid tenfold. Upon hearing his words, a cold expression appeared on Mo Qinglong's face. Fuck, Larry, that little fellow's talent is quite good. He actually dared to seriously injure my godson. Come, let's go and kill them. A Draconid beside him revealed a stern expression as he coldly shouted. The group of Draconids had experienced more than 10 years of fighting side by side and were already as close as brothers. Now that someone dared to attack their relatives, how could they let them off so easily? There's no need. Now that the Dragon King has increased our strength, I can handle it with my own strength. Moju shook his head. 3rd, 4th, 5th, 15-6, you guys go with 9th to handle it. If there's any problem, immediately notify us. Mo Qinglong immediately ordered them. Its leader. Go, go, someone actually dares to bully Happy. Let's go and cripple them. The 4 Draconids patted Moju's shoulder and shouted with icy cold faces. Moju revealed a trace of a smile on his face and nodded heavily. The group of 5 immediately walked out. Among us, only that brat Moju married a girl from a neighboring province and had no choice but to settle down there. After this, let him come to River City. This will be more convenient. A Draconid saw them leaving and said with a smile. The rest of the Draconids nodded in agreement. Do you know the biggest shopping mall in Jiang City? Go buy some clothes for the 2 little guys. After Wang Xian walked out of the villa, he asked Yarrow Nu who was beside him. I know. The Tianda Group Square is now the most famous square in every city. We can go there. Yarrow Nu nodded her head. Let's go. I'll bring the 2 of you to buy new clothes. Wang Xian shook the 2 little guys on his body and said with a smile. New clothes, new clothes. The 2 little guys were obviously very happy. They looked around with their pure eyes and kept shouting. Tianfeng City was a city that had just been built not long ago. Even if it had just been built, Tianfeng City was much more prosperous than Jiang City. Most importantly, Heavenly Wind City was built on an ancient land. The ancient land was called Heavenly Wind Ancient Land, an area covered by a green gale. In Heavenly Wind City, 5 or 6 powerful groups rose up because of Heavenly Wind Ancient Land. Moreover, a Heaven's Pride was born in Heavenly Wind Ancient Land, known as Heavenly Wind Heaven's Pride. Heavenly Wind Heaven's Pride was ranked 9th among all the Heaven's Pride, and had extremely powerful connections. The area of the Heavenly Wind Ancient Land was about 200 kilometers, while the area of the Heavenly Wind City was about 1,000 kilometers. The entire city was bustling with activity. 9th brother, which hospital are you happy to be in now? In the sky, 5 Draconids were flying towards the Heavenly Wind City at full speed. As they looked at the city below, Mo-san asked him. In the Central Hospital's intensive care unit, Moju's expression was a little awkward. Although the current hospital had been completely reformed, the intensive care unit still represented that the injuries were extremely serious. Intensive care unit? Looks like Happy's injuries aren't light. Damn it. This time, no matter who the other party is, we have to teach them a lesson. We aren't so easy to bully. The Draconids' faces were gloomy as they spoke with ice-cold expressions. We're here. Moju looked down and immediately landed on the ground. He ran anxiously into the hospital. Brother Ju, you're finally here. Our son, he hasn't left the safe period yet. When they arrived at the ICU on the 13th floor of the hospital, a delicate and pretty woman pounced on them with a face full of tears as she cried out in grief. Sister-in-law, sister-in-law, Demon 3, Demon 4, and the others shouted as they looked at Demon 9. Come, let's go in and take a look at Le Yi. Don't worry, Le Yi will be fine. Demon 9 patted his wife's shoulder as his gaze turned towards the parents-in-law in front of him. They walked directly towards the serious illness room. With the flourishing of their cultivation, the current serious illness room was no longer as closed as before. Are you the child's father? Your child suffered a heavy blow to the head and a heavy blow to the chest. There are no doctors in our hospital who can treat him, so we can only use pills to keep him alive. If you can't find a strong person to treat him, I'm afraid. A nurse in the intensive care unit was recording the situation as she spoke to Moju and the others. Let's take a look. When Moju saw that his breathing was weak and his son's vitality was weak, blue veins popped up on his face. He looked at his brothers and immediately walked over. Everything will be fine. The 4 Draconids and Moju walked over and placed their palms on Le Yi's body. Damn it, who did this? Sister-in-law, where is the person who hurt him? Mo 15 sensed Happy's injuries and a trace of killing intent flashed in his eyes. He shouted with a vicious tone. It's the Sun family. I went to the school. The school said that the students would spar normally and were happy to break the other party's arm. In the end, The other party's parents came directly in the afternoon and were happy to be seriously injured. The school has shares of the Sun family. They said that there's nothing they can do. Let us settle it ourselves. Moju's wife's parents were honest old men. Their eyes were red and their faces were full of anger as they spoke. Damn it. Moju's eyes revealed killing intent. He had seriously injured his son and nearly killed him. This enmity was irreconcilable. Fuck, what Sun family, old Jew, let's treat Happy first. We'll go and ask them for an explanation. A few Draconids revealed cold expressions in their eyes. If it was before, they might be afraid of a powerful family group. But now, with the increase in strength and the presence of the Dragon King, they weren't afraid at all. We don't provoke people, but if someone bullies us, we'll pay them back tenfold. Draconids aren't afraid.